So welcome to another edition of the O&O Wrestling Podcast. Boy, oh boy, have we had a week. We're going to get to that in just a second. My name is Owen. I am your Shark Break Kid. And I'm very happy tonight because we've got the, the main three lately, on O&O Wrestling Podcast, all together in one place. Of course, it's our good friend, the one and only modern-day Mataraja Matthew, and our reigning, defending predictions champion, the one and only Double J. How are you, Jay Jansen, my friend?
Le Champion is Matthew.
Le Champion.
Le Champion.
I love it. First off, congratulations on, retaining your championship. Got a little dicey there for you a couple of times, but you were definitely in no real danger as far as Payback goes, or even All In, I dare say. But that just shows you how much wrestling we have had to sort of, indulge in over this past week, and from going from All In through the weeks of this week's wrestling shows on TV, it's TV shows, to going into Payback on Saturday, to going into All Out last night. Boy, oh boy, we have a lot of ground to cover tonight, sirs.
Got a little bit, just a little bit.
So here's the deal. When this week started, or since we've last done this show, since then, we have had the biggest live paid attendance in all of wrestling history. We have not.
Half the internet would beg to disagree.
Well,
they would fight you. They would knife your mother.
How do you feel about this? Because I'm pretty confident in the numbers. I'm pretty confident in the fact that this is a pretty legitimate claim. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think you can keep just touting it as that if it's not, right? And the fact that they're so clear that they're not counting comps, they're not counting people who are working. I think that they're being very transparent, and I think they should be. They're taking their victory lap. It's a big deal for them, right? It's a big deal for wrestling.
And they should take their victory lap as well. There was a reason they did this, and there was there's a big reason to not let some of the other news in the world overshadow this. You got to keep it legit. You got to keep hammering this home in people's minds. They did the biggest live paid attendance for a one-night wrestling event of all time. It is that simple. What are the arguments against it, right? The arguments are, well, you've got the one in North Korea, which people were forced, to go to. You've got,
Yeah, they don't have any money to pay for anything.
That was like a government mandated thing. That's not a paid attendance. Then you've got I guess the biggest one that WWE fans are trying to bring up is, of course, Dallas, the Wrestle Mania in Dallas, right? 104 something thousand people was the claim, yet a lot less than that paid, apparently, to get in the building, and it was an overinflated number from the get.
Yeah.
They counted staff and security and concessions people.
Right.
Yeah, the other argument that I've seen just people bickering about, which is just insane. I go look at the comments for a minute, and I'm like, what are you people doing with your time? Because about a minute of just scrolling through this, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of here. There's no convincing one way or the other of what has actually happened here, right? The other one that I saw, though, is that whatever, WWE just sold fucking 90,000 tickets and blah, blah, blah and it's okay, yes, they did sell that many tickets, but that's not what AEW is claiming. AEW is saying for one event, one night, this WrestleMania is 2 nights, and like just let them have it. It's fucking good for wrestling. Like if you're not a fan of AEW, that's fine. Like, you know, just let them have it, because that means more people want to watch wrestling. And it's not that those 81,035 people are coming for WWE and gonna strike outside of shows and not show up to when they try and do.
No, they're gonna go to WWE shows as well.
Yeah,
they're gonna go to those as well.
They're gonna enjoy wrestling. So like be
this
happy
is a
for
good
wrestling.
thing. Yes, this is a good thing for wrestling. It's also, even if it's maybe it's not like the 100%, maybe there's one other event that technically eclipses it by a couple hundred people, whatever it is. Who gives a shit? This was monumental for a company that's what, 4.5 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. WCW never did anything like this, and you know, and it's funny too, because when the WWE runs huge events, they always have to just brag about it and bolster it, like more people than the Grammys, more people than and they list all these events like anyone cares, like who cares? Okay, you had a lot of people. Yeah, we get it.
I mean, advertisers care. People that are investing in the company care. Like, there are reasons to promote those statistics. I 100% agree with that as from like a business standpoint. But it's not like having one record beat another is going to deflate the other's business. Kind of like what you're saying.
Exactly.
Matthew. Like it's all going into the same. Yes, different companies, but it's all going into the same pool of wrestling fandom, which is going to help. If AEW does a great number, guess what? WWE's like ability to charge more for advertising also goes up. Because there's more interest in wrestling on television. Simple as that.
Simple as that. And for the fans, that means over there, yes, WWE is going to come for that number. That's what competition is about. Like, you want, you know, and they're going to try and do bigger. They might not be the first to do it, and they might sell more tickets, right? But it's going to be another big thing. But no one can take away that this was the largest selling, you know, at this moment in time, and for a company that's been around, like you said, for 4.5 years. I will say this. I did write this in my notes. And I wanted to ask you guys, everyone, like, when you're reading stuff online and people are like, well, it didn't live up to like a WrestleMania or this, that, and the other, right? And, or like they kept saying it was their WrestleMania. I don't think AEW ever said it was their WrestleMania. It was just like a really big fucking show.
Sure.
No one said, and I wonder if like we took it that way as wrestling fans because of the spectacle of it all and how many people were there.
Well, I think it's hard not to. I don't know that they were necessarily selling it as their WrestleMania, but I definitely felt that they were going for that vibe. That leads me to one of my questions. Did you guys think it had that vibe? I mean, it's obviously different. It did not have the vibe of WrestleMania. The WrestleMania still, as far as a spectacle goes, will outdo this in a much smaller stadium. But seeing it looked great. I liked what they did with the set, the ability to have people above, of course, be like the backstage entranceway. Like you didn't have to close off as many seats. Like, I thought it was really intelligently designed, like from a stage set perspective. And again, like, it definitely had more of what AEW has been sort of saying it's been going for since its inception, in that it had a more sporting-esque feel than it did necessarily the glitz and glamour Super Bowl-y type feel of a WrestleMania show, for instance.
That's actually what I was going to say too. And I was going to ask you guys that, because I feel like just even the production, and if I remember from the chats that night, Owen, I think you might disagree here, or maybe it was in a comment on the Facebook group, but I thought that they were making way too many quick fucking cuts, like with the cameras, and that they missed quite a few spots that they should have fucking gotten, and they didn't. And like, because they were cutting all around, but they kept doing that wide shot coming in, like, which is cool. I get it. Don't be doing that in the middle of a fucking match unless they're like in a hold or something. Yeah,
that definitely became a bug in certain instances. It wasn't a feature. It was definitely something where they used it too many times at the expense of capturing the action you wanted to see, whether it be this move being hit or this blow being hit, whatever it was. There were times for sure throughout the evening that the production suffered once or twice, but overall, I felt it was honestly a bit more solid than your average episode of Dynamite or Collision.
You know what? To me, it kind of, and I say this in the most loving way. The vibe for me was a WWE live event vibe, and the reason I say that is because if you ever go to the WWE live events, they are fun shows with fun matches where there's not a ton of implications on storylines, or zero implication on the storylines, and it's usually just a good time. With the exception of the crowd size of this one, that's what the matches kind of felt like to me. And like, again, say that in the most lovingly way. It definitely only felt WrestleMania-ish in that crowd size, but other than that, it just had a better than Dynamite fun show vibe.
I would say that. Do you think? And just before we get off this or move on, like the one other thing I thought was the actual cameras, like, because I agree with you, like this felt like more like a big sports event, like it felt grittier, it felt like raw, and I liked it.
I've seen a couple of clips of boxing events in Wembley, and it very much mirrored that setup and that thing, and it was only because people are like, hey, before the event, this is maybe what we could expect, and they were pretty accurate. Like it felt more like a big deal Tyson Fury boxing match, for instance, in a lot of the way it was presented than it did a WWE WrestleMania type of presentation.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. It seems like with that polish that you mentioned that WWE does, that glitz, that glamour, on entrances, they use certain cameras sometimes, right? And like they sometimes, I think, use it on like when they're close to the ring. Like, I don't know, because it does blur out the back a little bit and make a little bit more impact. Like this did feel much more like raw watching it. And again, like Jay said, I say that in a loving way too. It is a different thing. And I think that that's the one thing that so many people, it's like, well, it's so large, I'm going to compare it to WWE. And that's where all of us, I think, initially our brains go to, because we're wrestling fans and that's all we had for so long. But I think we do have to kind of step outside that and separate it, because it is that alternative. It's something new and it's different. Let them present it in the way, and like, let's try and take this bias that we've been conditioned in for so long, right? And try and enjoy this other thing while we can then still enjoy WWE when they have their big thing, right? And like, absolutely, let them present it to us the way that they want to.
Sure, I think that's a really valid point. I also think that what's being overlooked is that this was the second All In. When All In started, AEW wasn't even a company. It was the predecessor, the spiritual predecessor to what AEW would become. This had the production vibe. Maybe this was a direction thing. Maybe this was a production choice, a stylistic choice. It actually had more of the vibe of the original All In than many other pay-per-views that AEW does. Like it
definitely did.
So it set itself. I like that it set itself apart in that way. I liken it in a weird way to the original Forbidden Door, and I say that because when that first happened, we didn't know if we were going to get a Forbidden Door 2. We most certainly, before the end of this All In Wembley show, did not know we were going to be getting a second Wembley show next year. But with the Forbidden Door comparisons, they felt like almost standalone shows. You know, when like you have a very popular TV show, and they'll do this thing like, consider it almost like a Christmas special or a Thanksgiving special or some holiday special, something like that, which is sort of deviating from you kind of, in a weird way, know it's within the universe, but it deviates from its general storyline trajectories in some ways. I felt like that's what this was too. It felt very isolated from sort of the rest of the AEW product. Like it felt like it was in its own niche, like it was its own little thing. And I think that was definitely not by accident. Like, especially when we see All Out this, and we'll get there, yesterday, which very much felt more along the lines of okay, this is what we're doing. This is the trajectory of AEW. It felt very much like, and WrestleMania, in fairness, does feel like this sometimes. We're closing up loose ends where it's like it's almost its own little entity. Maybe WrestleMania is not the best example, but like the Saudi shows for a while, they felt like their own little entity in like this grandiose world that wasn't exactly playing along with every story on the roster. Does that make sense? Like, do you get what the comparison I'm trying to make there? Because I feel like Forbidden Door
that
felt
Saudi
like
show
that.
comparison actually really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when those first started, they were just the spectacle of the Saudi show. Didn't have any implication on storylines. It was, oh my gosh, we couldn't get Yokozuna in this battle royal, so here's a random sumo wrestler because that's what the Prince wanted. I mean, that was just the first one was nuts. But yeah, that's what it felt like, and I agree. And both your assessments that it had that much more sporting feel to it.
Now,
as a result.
Now that's well. Go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say to piggyback on what both you guys said. I think we saw it in the card too, and I think that the spectacle for this, and I think I won't speak for you all, but for me, I was not excited. I was not excited about the card. I was excited about like the event and the spectacle and like being able to watch it and be a part of that. I was not excited about the card at all because, like, one, a lot of it started happening super late. And to your point, Owen, it is kind of something that they start doing before, super showdowns or whatever they call them. And when they do that, it's usually coming in kind of quickly. And I think that's to get whatever fans getting into it. But I think for this, one of the issues was, I think they had so many people they wanted to get on.
Yeah.
They had to do so many multi-person matches that they couldn't do singles matches. And that was an issue. But I think for this first one, like, that was okay, I guess. Like, it did take away from it, but everyone got their entrances. And I think the crowd, like, you need to give the crowd all of those things. You can't just have 8 matches and you can't just have 16 wrestlers or whatever, right? Like, so I do get why they kind of did that. I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of it. I still think the card was not that great, but you did get a lot of people on there.
Here's the deal with the card. Like, I enjoyed the pay-per-view. It was nice. It's always nice watching a pay-per-view nice and early, in the States too, for us. Like, I kind of dig it, like having these sort of afternoon pay-per-views, but so I went in expecting the spectacle, got the spectacle, went in underwhelmed with the card, but it didn't over deliver based on the underwhelming card. I still left slightly disappointed in what All In was. Like, it felt like, man, like something was missing here. Something should have been bigger. I think we all agreed with that. We texted, right? Like, we definitely communicated about it. And we all, I think, felt just, this was good. Like, I'm not disparaging it, but I feel like they missed the mark on certain things, and it just, something was missing that it could have been bigger. It was a vibe issue.
Well, I wonder who caused that vibe.
And that's where we will move. But
man,
what's
booking so well.
Well, why don't we at least just really quickly with All In, best match, worst match for you guys. Best match.
MJF Adam
I went by a country mile, right? Like, it was a show saving match. Honestly, I think we would talk about this event a lot less favorably had that match not been on the show. That match had to be as good as it fucking was, and it was almost
good on both of them. It was amazing storytelling, amazing all the way through.
I've heard people describe it as almost genre defining, in a sense that it created a new genre of a pro wrestling match. Like, there's no way like you can label this as like a comedy match or just a technical match, or that, like, it was so many different things and so many elements of storytelling that it really, it's a unicorn. It's almost a one of a kind thing that they did with that particular match. And I think we're gonna, in years to come, we're going to come to understand this as an MJF match, which follows a formula, but you can't even figure out the formula, especially until even after it's over. MJF has a special way of his presentation and the way he develops his matches that this was almost like if you were to define an MJF match, this is probably it, right? Or at least where you kind of start with that. It had so many great elements. Were they right to keep the belt on MJF? You guys? Like, I mean, I
think so.
I think so in the end. I was rooting for Adam Cole though the whole way through, and I could have seen it going either way. But they were, I think, right to do what they did and keep it on him in the end. It was also great, of course, to have the bookmarked thing with the Ring of Honor tag titles, to have that victory, to have that thread now that binds them together as well. Like this
was also the one story that had the biggest build into it, and most of us like tied into it, right? Because of like when they got put into that tag team tournament match, together, and then had to become friend, or ended up becoming, and like just all of the skits and everything. Like there was that added little bit, like, are they going to turn? Like, who's going to turn? I think everyone thought there was going to be that, and when friendship won out at the end too, fucking amazing storytelling, right? Like, and it will happen eventually, right? But I think that they did. I mean, that was like bravo. That was well done storytelling, wrestling, presentation, everything it should have been.
I was going back and forth with what my worst match of the night was. And I, it's very quick. You can obviously, like, the women's match wasn't great, right? So it's very quick that you can probably say that that's the worst match of the night. But I don't even think that was necessarily the worst match of the night. Weirdly enough, I think the worst match of the night was the Kinoshiki Takeshita with Bullet Club Gold versus what was it? Hangman Kenny and Ibushi, right? That I think was honestly the least interesting match of the night, and that's so weird saying that with the players involved.
Yeah.
I think I felt more for the women's match than I did that match, and that's why I say I think it's the worst match of the night. Like I felt more for Ospreay Jericho, who way over delivered. Okay, I felt more for that. I felt more for the Acclaimed beating the House of Black, right? Like I think that Bullet Club Gold.
Gotta look at the card again.
With Takeshita versus the Elite, essentially Golden Elite, was technically my least favorite. Maybe it's not the worst match as far as work rate or whatever, but it was my least favorite. What about you, Jay?
Right. Well, it seems like a week ago. Interesting, and now we're gonna bookend it with All Out. I kind of feel a little differently now. I'm very excited about them, but I didn't see a lot of chemistry in that match, and I think part of the problem is we were all wanting something singles. Especially out of Kenny, and there wasn't much. We didn't get much of Kenny in that match the way I think people wanted. So I'd be with you. That was my worst match. It wasn't like it was absolutely like a bad match.
No, it wasn't.
Just wasn't my favorite.
No, yeah,
just not my favorite on the card.
Yeah, I also didn't like. I would agree with you, Owen. I think, looking at it, like, the women's one wasn't great, but it did have that element of Saraya like winning and her family, and she got that moment in Wembley. And yes, I think it's bad booking, but I'm very happy that she got that moment.
Absolutely.
And she got to experience that. Like, I think that good for her for being able to get that. Other than that, I think it's bad booking. I don't think she's going to be a great champion at all because she can't really wrestle anymore. And on top of that, but it had the pageantry and it got the feel there. I will say, and I was bored with the Stadium Stampede match. I'll be honest.
I
was bored.
I think I was in. This was a tale of two halves as a match for me. I was very the first half of the match, but by the end they got it there. It was where it needed to be by the end of the match, and I think that it was the right finish. I think that the skewer spot is something I'm gonna remember for a long ass time.
Yeah. The Penta Obscura thing
that
was weird.
Did not work at all. Like we're just gonna have him disappear. He's gonna go change into a different jumpsuit and mask and come back out. The suit thing was fine. You know, I thought Trent had an amazing match. I think Trent and Chucky T were unspoken heroes of that match. If I'm being honest,
Chucky T actually,
yeah,
he had a good showing in that match.
I think
he's been great in all the parking lot brawls and that stuff. I mean, sexy Chucky T.
So I mean, that's I can understand why you wouldn't have loved the match. I can definitely see it. Also, it did feel a bit pandering to just throw out another one of these kind of like arena, what is it? Anarchy in the Arena, Stadium Stampede. Like, I get what they're doing.
I get
here.
You're dropping it for your game. Like, I guess it ties in with that. I mean, it does. That's why they did it. But it just. But I don't know. It just.
There's a lot of good storyline implications with it, though. I do like some of the stuff that follows, like with the Kingston stuff with Moxley still keeps going on. The Kingston stuff with Claudio keeps going on. So I can see why you do that. I
just wish that they would like kind of incorporate, and maybe I'm crazy here because I just thought of this, but I was just thinking back to the original Stadium Stampede. Remember that, like in the pandemic,
the best one,
the pool bit, like everything, like the whole thing was amazing. What if they kind of, because you're in a very large stadium.
It was also a cinematic match. You have to remember the first Stadium Stampede was a cinematic. But
that's what I'm saying.
Match.
Couldn't you have people like go backstage and have pre-recorded a couple of things and spots and things, and then they're not wrestling and they're moving to another side of the arena, and then they can come in where on a completely opposite side where fans are like, "What the fuck?"
As if they've been fighting the whole way around without you seeing them. Type
around.
thing.
Yeah. You could do some of that. That would maybe be interesting if done properly.
I think it's tough with the live crowd. They're scared of losing people with having too much going on a video while they've got, an empty ring and that type of deal. Like, that is definitely a concern on why they changed like the original Stadium Stampede into kind of what the second one was and what the Anarchy in the Arena became. I think there was a lot of good spots in the match. I think it definitely served its purpose. I did not dislike it, but I don't know if I need one of these like every friggin' pay-per-view. like I don't know if I need like
right.
I like you're drying the well here, and it's the case with AEW and its blood, right? It's the case of AEW and sort of its excuse for some form of hardcore bullshit. Like at times, like it's effective when you don't see it all the time, or it's more effective when you don't see it all the time, and that's just common sense with any form of oversaturation.
Yeah,
I think it was purely to promote the new video game mode. Which, by the way, I don't know if either of you played it. I played it a little bit. It's not bad. I've been playing as Yuki. I've been playing as Yuki Sakatori, and I've only won one match, and I remember throwing a flaming football at Sammy Guevara. And they have the golf cart.
Well, that's got to feel pretty therapeutic. I would like to throw a flaming football at Sammy Guevara.
Sammy Guevara, yeah.
This is for you and having a super hot wife and being
it's gonna...
way too talented and being a douchebag.
I think having that match on there was purely to promote that.
You're probably right. Now let's talk about like when it comes to All In, when it comes to the vibe of everything, when it came to the build that we've obviously criticized. I think it really, really like shows, and this is where like we really start bookmarking this particular episode of Oh No Wrestling, in the fact that this might have suffered because of backstage tensions. This might have suffered by not having the ability to have rosters certain members of the rosters not on one show and the other. There was one guy in there named CM Punk who might have actually inadvertently or subconsciously fucked up the biggest wrestling pay-per-view of AEW's, of all time in AEW, but might have, like, the tensions of that. I was thinking about this, that maybe part of some of this, maybe some of this direction that AEW has been lacking, and going even into All In, maybe this really was because of some of the stuff going on with CM Punk. Now, we just learned, of course, a couple days ago, right before this last pay-per-view on, what was it, Saturday, I think we got the news that Tony Khan had stepped up and actually fired CM Punk. The reasons for this were because basically there was and everybody's heard about this. I'm not going to go over it in detail. We don't need to. You can find this on your own. But realistically, long and short of it, the dude has an anger management goddamn issue, and had another backstage fighting incident with another person that is employed by the company. And then I heard he might have even threatened the boss.
Several times.
Yeah. Like lunged at him.
I think we all...
Here's my not be straight edge for like 1 second and just drink a beer, man.
Chill out.
Drink a beer, chill the fuck out, smoke a joint, see the world from a little bit different perspective, and realize you're not the fucking goddamn center of it, and you aren't the best in the world, and you could have done things and made like a better contribution to wrestling and everything else, but you've made it about you. Always.
Now, we all remember the old Brett screwed Brett promo, which was bullshit by Vince, because Brett didn't screw Brett. Vince screwed Brett, really. But in this particular case, if you want to compare it and say Punk screwed Punk, Punk absolutely did screw Punk.
And with the anger management thing too, I think, and what I've seen when I listen to podcasts or like go online and see people talking about it and arguing about it, you get the people who are like, no, it's like everyone else. It was the locker room. It was the way that the elite's doing it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Things got much worse when Punk showed up. And with this incident, from the reports that we have, the one that I understand to be true, and who knows if it actually is or not, right? I'm not saying it is.
Sure.
Is that Perry said that, and then when he came back through Gorilla, Punk was there and got in his face and said, do you have a problem with me? And he said, I was trying to get heat as a heel. Right. Which, who knows, maybe he like, because people were talking about this people were saying that they wouldn't let him do that. Right. So maybe he was like, fuck it, I'm going to lean into it. We've all wanted Jack Perry to be fucking heel.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And maybe he was like, I'm going to try this. And it wasn't a personal thing. And now it's been projected by like this was personal. But from the count that I've now, out of all of them that have come out, that apparently I've seen that I think is the most true, is that when he said that, he then like pushed him really hard, and then like Perry got in his face, and then he like put him in the chokehold or whatever, right? So Punk instigated the physical touching, from what I can tell.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and because they have video and all this stuff, I don't think until 20 years from now, maybe we'll hear about the actual original brawl out. But when you think about that, maybe from what the story that I believe from that is true, is that like the Young Bucks went because they were pissed to his locker room. But I don't think that like they did, like, which maybe they were like, hey, we got to, what the fuck did you do? We got, and it sounds like maybe he then also started that physical.
I think he's even admitted to that. I think that you can find some quotes that, especially from, I want to say was it the ESPN article, maybe Sports Illustrated, one of the two, where he pretty much, I believe, admits that he was the one to physically start that fight. I think that there is some evidence that points towards that.
Okay, well maybe this was in of all the reports.
Well, and that one was in a locker room with no cameras.
I know, but I'm
And
just
now
saying it's
this
interesting
one-
that like
right, but
we're
now-
talking about a dude who each time he's the one who steps it over the
Yep.
line to a physical altercation,
Yep.
right? Where I don't think like, yes, these dudes in the back are going to argue and whatever and like get in each other's faces. How often does that happen over like physical altercations happening and like major things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's also just, God, he's going to do like, I'm sure, dude. All right. First off, he's probably going to show up on Cornette's podcast if he ever does one. And they're just going to talk shit about the Elite the whole time. But the other thing I was going to say is that I think that he's that like now he's going to, again, fans are going to get the brunt of this. Like, and even people who stand up and love CM Punk, it's going to be like when he left the WWE, then went to MMA and then like lost and like no one was behind him. And he's like, well, you guys are all fucking marks. You're stupid fucking wrestling fans, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do my gaming thing or like whatever he was doing. Right. But like he turned every time he shows everyone, he doesn't fucking care about you. He doesn't care about you at all. It's all about him. And he's done it inside of wrestling, outside of wrestling. Like I don't understand how you get behind this guy. And in my opinion, he's average at best at wrestling, especially these last two runs since he's come back.
He's the Donald Trump of wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Vince McMahon is the Donald Trump of wrestling.
Yeah,
CM Punk is the Donald Trump Jr. of wrestling.
He's the fucking Hunter Biden of wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Although, except he's straight edge, so maybe that was not a good comparison.
what are your? Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
There is something a quote about a quote from the TV show Justified. I don't know if you guys ever watched it. That comes to mind when I think about CM Punk, and it's from the lead Raylan Givens, and he says, "You run into an asshole in the morning, you ran into an asshole. You run into assholes all day, you're the asshole." And that's CM Punk's thing.
Yep.
He is always the victim. He is always talking about everyone else being an asshole. No, Punk, you're the fucking asshole.
What's the
You're the
common
asshole.
denominator of the problem over and over again? It seems to be you. It does.
It's always Punk.
Yeah, and it makes so many of these like promos too over time so much more relevant, right? Like especially I think back to the Kingston one where he was like, nobody here wants you. You know, no, like how true, like it was all of that stuff to me feels a lot more real and actually like, oh shit, there probably was tensions from the get-go that guy showed up and people were probably just playing nice. You know, a lot of them were probably just not saying nothing and going along. But I guarantee you, I don't know if I guarantee this, but I do think it was part of Cody's reasoning to leave for the WWE. I do think that there was something there in that. We'll never probably know that, but
I think he was a much bigger role backstage and in the locker room. And I think we all kind of knew, but I think he was keeping a lot of like, and people looked up to him and I think he was that role.
I think he had the respect that Punk wanted, but Cody actually had it for the right reasons.
Exactly. And I actually have it in here in my notes. Punk acts like he built AEW and he didn't. He fucking showed up and like he just literally will talk about, he acts like he built that place and everyone should be fucking happy and it's all about him. Whereas Cody, when you look at it that way, he did build that.
He absolutely did.
He literally built it.
Also think back to the Hangman program. That one line. I'm here to save AEW from you.
Dude, I saw this thing. I don't think it's what happened live. I think it was like cut in. But like someone put something on Twitter or X or whatever the fuck it's called right now. And it was like when CM Punk was out there talking about Hangman saying like, you know, the apologies got to be louder than the fucking whatever, you know, that whole thing. And then it cut to like, what was Hangman Adam Page doing during all of this? And it's like, he's back there with like one of the Bucks and like Stu Grayson and or like,
it was on BTE, right? Like,
and he's like, fucking do leapfrogs. And they're like, hey, someone is talking about you out there. He's like, I don't give a fuck. We're training back here. Blah, 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 right. And it's like that whole thing, but he kept his mouth shut. He didn't do anything after that off-air thing at Collision, right?
Right.
And like, I mean, he just kept his mouth shut and just kept moving. And I think
absolutely
he maybe handled it. And there's probably a lot of lawyers and things involved in that too. But
I feel like he's handled it the most maturely.
100%. It doesn't seem like anyone else has really gone off of that.
No,
like Punk was the one who was going off of that.
Let me ask you guys this, because I was having the thoughts on the real glass thing, right? Which was obviously what Jack Perry had. Was it like a couple months before or something it came out that Jack?
It was just it was like a couple of weeks before.
I don't know. I think it might have even been longer. Who knows? Yeah, a few weeks, whatever. But he had basically gotten approval above Punk to use real glass in a match. Punk, with his, sort of, I guess, creative control over Collision, absolutely nixed the idea of using real glass, which then made Jack Perry what was I'm trying to remember
it was 2 weeks before. It was 2 weeks before this happened.
So of course, Jack Perry doing that on television, I don't even really blame him that much, but I like the real glass used in the match was car glass. If you know anything about car glass, it's way safer than going through a pane of glass or using light tubes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of physics and just like hardware and cars and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's tempered and it's got a coating on both sides.
Way.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not going to get the random shard. Likely, I mean, you could. Anything can happen. It's also wrestling. Anything can happen, but.
It's
horrible.
Meant to break in
but it's
meant
to exactly.
It's sharp.
It's not. It's meant to break in a way where it's not going to create a knife that's going to essentially rupture an artery. So if that was what,
or a wooden skewer, if you would.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And not all glass is. Yeah, and also not all glass is glass. There's so many types of glass that I'm sure we don't even know, right?
And look into. The only thing that I find I do have a bit of issue with, realistically, is that Jack Perry did that on a show where we're knowing that one of the biggest spots later in the show is a glass spot. Now, I'm sure it's a fake sugar glass type thing that Orange Cassidy did for his Superman punch, where he wrapped the backwards tape around his hand, smashed up a bunch of glass in a bucket, and then used it to bash an opponent to win the match, or at least be a big part of the match. What you're doing is, if Jack Perry, you're an idiot at that point by saying, doing the whole fake, look at this fake glass Crimea River. Well, then that means you're sort of pointing out that the glass later on in the show is indeed fake. That is the one big thing I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't like that there wasn't the symmetry within the card to be able to talk about glass spots, for instance. And AEW is very guilty of this in doing hey, we're going to do this chair spot, and then the same chair spot happens 2 matches later, right? They don't talk to each other enough. I think that was a major criticism that's been going on. That is obviously not something that's being addressed, or Jack Perry didn't get that fucking memo. Because that to me, if you're going to be making such a big deal, so much of a big deal that you get this altercation happening with CM Punk about a glass spot in your match on the pre-show, you shouldn't be doing that when one of the major matches, i.e., Stadium Stampede later on, has such a big glass shot or a glass spot planned for its particular match. I just think that's a bad idea. I don't think that's really good booking, and I don't think that's good planning on anybody.
I think
in the company.
But I don't think that's their fault. It's because we have more access to information and dirt sheets and behind the
But agents should be talking about that though. If we're gonna do a double turn in this match, and it's the major match, then we don't do one on the undercard later. If we're gonna do a big super kick spot or or a choke out spot or whatever. That's maybe not, that's planted out enough, agenting without the entire show, so that we understand we're not doing the same finish on two different things.
So I guess the question would be, do you think what Perry said was spontaneous? Planned. Because I get a feeling like it wasn't planned out. I think he walks out of his match past Punk, who's standing in Gorilla, and he's pissed off. It's my wife, she works in HR, and we were talking about this, and this is all the same. We see this everywhere.
Oh man, she must have a field day with this. I imagine this
absolutely.
is like, this could be a great case study for HR people, right?
Yeah.
It is, because this is a toxic work environment.
Yeah.
Because what you had here is you had a guy who made things so toxic that we have someone who is universally loved in the back, Jack Perry. A guy who you would never think would do like a jab on live TV, get someone else like that who did it.
Sure.
And it started off as going back to off the entire show in this sour by it later down on the card.
It did,
and that's something that Perry wouldn't do, and it's a toxic work environment that Punk created.
Yeah. To answer your question, I think, like I said, I don't know if I'll ever know, but like from all accounts, I think he said it to get heat. Like, not heat from CM Punk, but because, again,
he was playing into his new heel character, is what you're.
I think so, and I don't think he planned for it. I think maybe it happened, or maybe he did. Who knows? But like, I think it was more directed at the journalists and like the people who were fucking
taking a shot at the dirt sheets, taking a shot at the smarts,
and I think CM Punk made it about him. Was like, and maybe Jack Perry got an idea, or someone was like, "Hey, maybe we should." Like play into it, and he's like, maybe in the moment I'll see how it goes.
It's that,
like,
I think evidence that would back up that theory, Matthew, is that as much as I think turning Jack Perry heel was the right move, it hasn't clicked in, I think, the way that he or Tony or anybody really wanted it to, because he's a lackluster promo. So this does seem
like he sounded like a badass when he said that.
Exactly. So if this is that's exactly why I'm saying I agree with you, is that this might have been something that actually,
that was the hot sauce.
It's like, okay, this could get this character over. This could get the character over a little bit. This could work. This could be an added little.
Yeah, and kind of like you were saying about the glass stuff, right? And like, now we have to have this conversation about glass on air to like talk to people, which, but a lot of it stems because we have these journalists and all these people, right? Like, who know this thing that happened backstage at Collision where he wanted to do this. Punk told him to leave. Like, he did, and granted others weren't in agreement from my understanding, but, like, it wasn't really like, I would see you wanting to play into that and push into that. Like, that would be a real heel thing to do.
Absolutely.
Like, if that's what you're trying to do. And to Jay's point, I completely agree. I don't think Jack Perry doesn't seem like the type of dude who, and like, is definitely not at the level to go into business for himself.
Well, it's great because there's
like, and fuck up the largest paid wrestling attendance show ever. I don't think he went in with that mindset.
You gotta love the internet too, because they've been digging up all like little quotes from CM Punk like after this whole thing. Like,
I know, Sean.
And the one that keeps popping in my mind is he's on commentary. I forgot what match it's about. He's obviously commentating on a Jungle Boy match, and he says something along the lines of, well, it's, Jungle Boy's not the problem. No one in the back of the locker room would ever have a problem with Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy, we all know, is like the nicest guy in the world.
He's
and
like,
all
if you got a problem with Jungle Boy, you got a problem with me, or something.
Or you got a problem with yourself, or you got to, like, you're the, like, so it's so like that was less than a year ago, guys. Like that was like how
Punk might go full Kanye West by the end of this. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll get back more into AEW. We'll get back more into, there's plenty more to talk about, like, after the fact. I think more after we talk about All Out, maybe even involving CM Punk. But We do need to address, of course, that WWE actually had a pay-per-view on Saturday. I forgot that it was even on. Did you guys, like, I think, Jay, you were the same way as me, right? Like, oh, shit, like, there's a pay-per-view. We didn't even do predictions for it because we just forgot that it was even happening.
I didn't remember till, like, midday that day.
Right.
I was like, oh, shit. I was going on a date and going to Comedy Works, and I was like, I'm going to miss most of that. And I was like, no, but it's the late show. I'll be able to catch some of it. So I watched the first bit of Collision just to see, like, and I caught the announcement and everything like that. And then I was like, all right, now I'm gonna hop over. So I caught a good bit of the Trish thing, but
okay, that's
mid that day though that
I
remembered.
Pause there for a second, because you do bring up an interesting point with the announcement with Collision. The fact that Tony did, before Collision, come out and address, like, what they had released in, like, an official statement by AEW, right? CM Punk had been fired. He did come out to the audience in Chicago and address it before that.
I think it was pre-recorded.
Well, he did a pre-recorded one that aired on TV, but he actually came out. Maybe you've not seen this. This is actually a really interesting one. He had a chair on the stage. He came out to the stage, and he came out and he addressed and he basically let the crowd boo in Chicago, boo the shit out of him. They were not happy. And he was basically like, yeah, I can do this forever, and sat down in a chair to let Chicago get their venom out on him.
Good for you, TK.
Finally. And you saw this, I'm sure, Jay. Then you sounds like you did.
I didn't see it.
What were your thoughts on the way Tony handled it?
But I heard it, and I heard a clip of it, and
yeah, it's all over on
heard
YouTube
about the whole
and Twitter.
thing,
you can find it.
And I thought that was good, because
me too.
I think if he didn't address it at the very beginning of the show, everyone there knew, or they were expecting CM Punk to be at the show, and they weren't going to get Punk, and that was going to be a really bad thing.
Well, I think it was smart.
He started that out.
It was smart because he knew at that point, obviously, I don't want to let these people down for Collision. I don't want to let these people down for if they're coming back for.
And it's Chicago.
Yeah,
he's like they're gonna
the worst possible place.
Yeah,
for him to have just fired Punk.
Good on him for sitting out there and being like, no, like, give it to me, like, and I'm not gonna let it affect me. I'm still gonna keep moving. This was like for the best. Like, you guys love him. You don't know what happened. I loved it. He was like the biggest CM Punk mark.
He was.
Like, yeah,
and he talked about that.
CM Punk and Gorilla.
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because it's not a long clip, and it would be good for everybody to hear this.
I just think it's good that it seems like TK, he just couldn't, like, ignore it. He obviously had to have a lot of other people, like, but the fact that, like, he came after him and, like, lunged at him, you know, like, that's, I think TK's like, I can't do this, and I think that maybe now he's like, oh, I actually have to be the boss.
Create amazing video.
I'm hoping, right? That I hope that he actually says, like, no, they're like, things got changed. And I think
well it's got to send a message, right, to the locker room that if you're playing these fucking games, like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, that whole thing.
Yeah, but I love what you're about to play for is that, like, you know, he's also then willing to go out there and face everyone and be like, yeah, I'm the fucking boss. I don't care if you like it. This is what happens.
Yeah, here we go.
That's what you have to do, and he hasn't been doing that.
The booze. Okay, it's okay. I understand. And now he sits in the chair. I can do the share screen thing if you give me 2 seconds. On this one. Actually, oh shit, no, I can't on this. I pulled it up on the wrong computer. We'll do it audio. We'll do it audio.
Just because someone was like,
I have never done this before. I wanted to come out and talk to you before the show starts. Usually when I come out here in Chicago, in front of friends and family, I always talk about how I'm from this great state. I'm from the great state of Illinois myself. I grew up here. I grew up downstate in Champaign. And to come here to this building was pretty much the biggest deal in the world to me. Until I was 28 years old, I had never spent more than 2.5 weeks in a row out of Illinois in my entire life.
mean, he's trying to talk. He's trying to butter up the crowd, but they are having none of it, which, I get it, but he's doing his thing. Talks about All In a little bit.
Last weekend, we had AEW All In. That was the biggest pro wrestling show of all time, period.
See, the fans,
we hate it All In.
We anything Chicago, we love you, but other than that, we hate it. This is why politics. This is why everything. Like, you can agree
people
and disagree on something.
People are idiots.
Yeah, people are idiots.
He's
from Chicago. Boo.
Honestly, I'll defend the Chicago crowd here a little bit. They're I did a big show. They're super mad at him about this because he hasn't even said anything about CM Punk. As soon as he says, we did AEW, did the biggest show, fans are like, yay! You did a good show. We forgot already. They're
definitely
fucking goldfish.
Half of them were like, oh, what? Yeah.
It's very important to me to keep the tradition of All Out alive. All Out started, to be honest with you, because when I started AEW, Ring of Honor had paid for the original All In, and I couldn't call it All In without possibly getting sued by Ring of Honor, which I now own.
So I bought that, and I don't have to worry about that.
And I owned
okay,
that.
Yeah. So okay,
I bought that.
Yeah.
You fucking peasants.
Fast forwarding a bit.
I've been going to wrestling shows like you for over 30 years, and the first one I ever went to was with my dad, who's here tonight, downstate in Champaign, Illinois. I would thank you, Dad, because without him, none of this would be possible, because he took a huge leap on a dream that became AEW, and that's why we're here.
You're booing the man who funded the thing that you're at.
Yeah. Fuck you, billionaire.
Fuck you. Why are you booing his dad?
Okay.
About business I learned from him. He's a family businessman. This is a family
I bet
business.
Christian loves him.
And I care about the people who work here. That's the production staff. That's everybody.
Are you good?
You right?
No.
You right, brother?
No, that just made me choke because it just made me think of the promos that Christian could cut on Tony Khan now.
Dude, he did. Did you see this post media scrum?
It's the best.
I watched it earlier today when he walked out.
Did it all in character.
He's like, "How are all your fathers doing?"
Yeah. Matthew, your dad, your real dad, you got to keep him.
I think he might be.
He's your real dad. He's your real dad.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
That works here. The wrestlers, but also people you don't think about every day that make this show happen. I've been going to wrestling shows.
Boo the production team. Boo the wrestlers.
For almost 4 years now. And this was the first time, this incident, that I have ever feared for my safety in a wrestling show, that I've ever feared for my life in a wrestling show.
I feared
He's
for
like,
my safety.
this is now going to be the second time. I'm going to sit down.
Yeah. He's yelling at this crowd like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. Like, there were people put in danger with his asshole.
Him.
And he's telling the
he went out
crowd
and told them to their faces.
Yeah.
He went and told it. Good for him.
There shouldn't be 50-year-old people with artificial joints worried, am I going to get hurt for coming to work? So work on AEW every single week. I'm sorry, I can't have that, and I won't have that, and that's why I made a very tough choice. There's no place in the world, this is literally the last place in the world, literally the United Center, that I would want to tell you this. But, no. And if you want to, look, first and foremost, the recommendation was from the committee, but the decision was mine. I'm sorry for anybody who's upset, but I want you to know that I know you're all here tonight because you love professional wrestling. This company is a lot better than professional wrestling, and I know there's wrestlers here that every single one of you care about. They're all going to work very hard to put on a great episode of Collision for you here tonight. They're going to work very hard, I promise, to put a great all-out on for you, because when you do it all out,
And I fired CM Punk.
And he never
and
had
number 2. I fired CM Punk.
And I fired CM.
But yeah, Chicago.
I mean, yeah, but I like that there was some explanation. I like that he kind of I like that he manned up. I like that he manned up in this.
You know, the crowd's not totally against him. They're probably about 50-50, and then towards the end, there's a lot of people who are like, all right, they're behind him. So
yeah, at the very beginning, they were.
That
was Dominic Mysterio type heat.
Some balls, and I'm cool with it.
Very, very happy that they did it.
Yeah, but you can never hear what Dominic says, but you can actually hear what Tony said this time.
True. I think this is good for him. I don't know if he would have gotten there had it got. I think he was kind of forced into this position, but I think he did. I think he made the right decision, and I think he's going to grow better as like a boss
and a leader.
Yeah.
And also like this is not the first backstage incident like of violence, right? Like remember, like there was something with Kingston, there was something with I think Andrade and Guevara at one point. I want to say like it sticks in my head. Right. So
there was a Kingston Guevara thing too.
Maybe it was Kingston to Guevara. Andrade had something. Maybe it was with Guevara. I can't remember. But it shows those people like it shows the whole entire roster. Wow, if they can get rid of that guy, they can get rid of anyone. Like that, it was the same feeling in my mind I had, you know, when the awful roster cuts were happening in WWE, like in over the pandemic, when they fired Bray and Braun, like around that same time. When that happened, it was like, well, if they fire Bray, that means anybody's name is on the chopping block. Like, and that's kind of the way I feel that, you know, Tony should be treating this, and the whole roster should be put on like high alert. Like, yeah, fuck around and find out. Like, you know, if I can make my business run without my biggest top selling like draw, arguably, then fuck you, you know, whoever you are, a backstage mid card guy, you know, like
I can still do it.
Yeah.
I can still do it. And I think, but I also think, and I mentioned earlier, and I think Owen, at least Owen, Jay, I'm sure you've listened. I don't know if you watched the presser for All Out afterwards, but I will say this, like the way, like Bryan Danielson, like when he was like speaking and talking about like, you know, being able to take over when Tony said that, like he told his dad that if anyone, you know, that, and he's like, I don't know, he's like, it's a lot, you know, like that. But then the way that he spoke about AEW and like, I'm like, that's the kind of dude that you want, like,
as your locker room leader.
Even Tony said, like,
should talk about
like Saturday nights are better for you and your work balance.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about after we talk about All Out. Let's talk about, you know, that type of thing, because I think that's, you know, a very good way to sort of end our show this evening, is kind of how things are going to progress post Punk and what have you. What I would like to switch to before we go to a break is just kind of do a quick rundown of Payback and your highs and lows with it and what you've seen. And I'll give you my highs straight off the bat. Fucking, I can't believe that Becky and Trish put on as good of a cage match as they did. And I was I was blown away by this. This was a feud that I felt like obviously had lost a lot of its heat. I think they intended to do this, or was originally scheduled to be at SummerSlam, and they were knocked off the card for one reason or another. They weren't able to do that match, time constraints, whatever. And you could tell with the two of them in this match, they went out there to try and steal the goddamn show, and they were damn close to doing it. Like, they were damn close to doing it. It was far, like, this honestly, if it hadn't lost a little bit of heat because of the whole SummerSlam thing, and they had really timed this right, this could have main evented the pay-per-view. Like, it really, really could have, because it had the match quality. It did. It felt really, really good. Trish put it all on the line. Trish had a goddamn egg on her forehead about 3 inches deep. Like, she got absolutely like battered and bruised. They used the cage well, apart from the whole Zoe Stark coming in at the end, which was the whole reason for the cage, and that part was a little stupid. But as far as just the match quality,
though, with Becky just like shutting the cage door,
and honestly, Becky looked like the Becky of old. She looked dominant. She looked confident. Like it looked. This was great for Trish in a lot of ways. I mean, apart from her face, it was great for Becky. And it was actually really good with the post-match angle for Zoe Stark. Are your thoughts mirror mine, guys?
I mean, in this... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to really quickly say, I mean, in this entire last run of Trish, or this match, I mean, this has been like Sting level, I mean, coming back, at this age. Trish is what, 48? 50 something.
She's like your age, Jay.
Yeah, she's like my age. She's a little older than me, I think. But
she's 47.
For her to come back and do that,
you almost look as good as Trish for your age. I'll just say you almost do.
Almost. Yeah. She's a year younger. Oh man, dude. But she said she's not sure she's going to hang up the boots yet, and I hope she doesn't, because I think she could still put on a few good programs. So that was my match of the night there.
It didn't feel like a retirement match, did it? It felt like she'd still be back. Like it absolutely felt.
She said she's still going to be around.
Yeah, and it felt like, you know what? After that match in particular, I'm like, I welcome it. But keep going, yeah.
Yeah. So think about this, like. So her debut was March 19th, 2000. So that means that we're now 23 years later, right? And she wasn't around for a super, super long time.
No.
And like now she's come back. But I will say this. We got to move on with this storyline. We got to be done with this.
Well, it feels like they did that.
I know, but I'm saying even before this, I was so tired of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like you were juicing the fucking orange or grapefruit or whatever, and you like got every last drop out a while ago, but you're like, fuck, something happened, we're taking it off SummerSlam.
Let's juice the rind.
Let's leave it. Hope like some moisture gets in, and then we'll juice the rind.
Yeah.
But they did an amazing job with they got the last squeeze of juice out of that, and like now everyone needs to move forward. And they'll all
it sounds like we're doing something with Becky and Tiffany Stratton. That seems like it's being set up.
She's gonna go down to NXT.
We're probably gonna have a short feud, of course, with Trish and Zoe after the Zoe turn on her. I mean, one would assume that Zoe's gonna be now more of a face, and Trish will still be playing the heel. So automatically, right there, you've got the separation. You've got things to do for both of those people, and now we can move on. Like you said, very much overdue that they move on from this. Do you guys like the John Cena hosting stuff?
All right, I'm just gonna say it, like hosts. If you're gonna have a host, and WWE is notorious for this, because when their hosts.
I should be the host. Let me be the host. I'd be a good Wrestle Mania host.
Luke Owen.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Which is also one of the guys' names from Wrestle Talk.
I think I'm going Luke Owens. I think
that's his name.
Oh shit.
He's a Brit too.
Oh fuck. Well, it's.
But yeah, you're.
That's me. It's my middle name. Luke is my middle name. I can use it.
It works. Fuck. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. Sorry.
Hosting, John Cena.
Oh yeah, the hosting. Open the show with the host.
Yeah, don't introduce the host
Always
after you
open the show with the host.
Yeah.
And WWE is notorious for not doing that.
Stupid.
Like they should. Like, why did John Cena show up and be like, "All right, everybody, welcome to Payback"? I'm like, I just watched a steel cage match. I know where I'm at. Like, I don't need you to come out.
It's so funny you say that, because I tuned in late and I thought I must have missed something, right? Like I thought I must have missed some John Cena thing before the cage match. It turns out I didn't. It turns out like it just kind of showed up after the first match to do a special.
That all the host does is just come out in the middle of the show and be like, "Hey, everybody."
Sometimes they come out once and they don't even get in the ring. They're just on
host.
And then most of the time it's like backstage.
And I'm a special guest referee now. And
it was really memorable when Bob Barker was the general manager of the night. Other than that,
that's a good one. But okay, so what's
I think they had the Muppets once too, you know.
No, can't knock the Muppets.
Cena's gonna wrestle once or twice during this run.
Well, he's got like 8 dates. He better fucking wrestle on occasion. Like he's doing actually.
Well, I think they're gonna do something in Saudi Arabia with him.
Convenient how that's when the writers
it'll
strike.
Be like an LA Knight, like or Miz him, LA Knight him.
Well,
LA Knight him.
It is totally convenient. It's totally convenient that they've done this while the writer's strike's going on. Yeah. Like I don't know how
I think that's part of the reason, that he's so available.
I also like
The Rock is like, no, I actually still just don't need your money.
Isn't it still kind of fucked up? You know, like the fact that they have writers at WWE.
Theirs is completely
it does feel a little hypocritical.
It's again the whole like independent contractor thing with wrestlers.
It's
like
that
they
loophole.
Found their loophole. They're the carny loophole.
I think what they do with Cena is they probably do something like with him, and here's what you do, in my opinion, and this is awful, but this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna do a tag team match. They're gonna have Austin Theory and Grayson Waller against LA Knight and John Cena.
Jesus, you just called it.
That's gonna be the match. Like that's gonna be like a Survivor Series match. Like that feels like the way that they're developing this. I think the whole John Cena being the host thing was like in part to get more of the rub over on LA Knight. What would be cool is if they did that match I just said first, and then they actually did an LA Knight John Cena match where LA Knight can go over. If they're really that behind LA Knight, like that'd be what I would do.
Yeah,
it'd be hard because you'd have to have. John Cena would have to be more of a heel in that because LA Knight's he's got the crowd.
But they still have not acknowledged LA Knight as a face. LA Knight is still wrestling as a heel. He is still.
He won the Slim Jim Battle Royale, which is a face move.
He's technically a heel. That's a face.
But he wrestled against the Miz. I mean, who is the heel in that match? You know.
I mean, you can argue some people actually do like the Miz weirdly. So like that there is a weird one there. But we also
appreciate his work ethic.
With Cena, I got one thing with Cena.
I got two things with Cena.
Okay, I can hold off. I got one thing with Cena and then one thing with Survivor Series.
Well, no, the big Cena thing here is that we had a Lance Cattermeran acknowledgement and sort of comeback in the show as well.
But it wasn't really a comeback. It's like he forgot who Lance Cattermeran was.
Yeah, he wasn't really playing the Lance Cattermeran to the Lance Cattermeran perfection that I need him to be playing it.
Yeah.
But it does lead me to believe that and I said this a couple days before this even happened in our group. I did facebook.com/group/Ono Wrestling. But I did say it popped in my head. Oh shit, Cena's coming back. The Good Brothers are there. Could we be getting a season 3 of Southpaw Regional Wrestling, which they sort of tried to do and then didn't do? I absolutely think that they should do it. And you're missing a couple of key components with like Jericho, obviously, but if you were to bring back Dirty Dango, like who has been killing it in Impact, if you were to bring back him and actually be that character, and then also have him with Southpaw, now we're talking. And I think that you can do a Southpaw Regional Wrestling season 3, Lance Cattermeran comeback. I think you can do it. And now's the time. I mean, they're gonna have Cena on the road. That's how they did all the original ones. Why not do it? Like I think they'd be silly not to. So that's exciting. That's exciting too.
Yeah.
As a fan of that. But what were you gonna say, Cena wise?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think a while ago I told you, like a year or two ago, that I was like bored one night and didn't know what to watch, and I had, ate some edibles or something. Like I watched that movie that he's in called Vacation Friends. I don't know if you ever watched it, but dude,
is that the one where he has kids or has a kid?
No. They like go on vacation. These two people go on vacation, and like John Cena, and they meet up with John Cena's girlfriend, and like he is like a drug dealer, and he's like doing
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one where he's all tattooed and stuff. He's got like face tattoos.
No, that was like 22 Jump Street or something.
See, there's
like
so
that.
many.
But this one, it's weird. He's like eating mushrooms and driving around naked on jet skis and stuff like that.
I gotta see.
And I guess I just saw a commercial that they came out with a second one. I was like, that wasn't a great movie when I watched it. Like I watched it because John Cena. And I was like, and every time I was like, this is so out of place for him.
But now you want to see this. Is he in the second one? Do you know?
Yeah, it's the same.
Oh, so you're gonna watch. Like, so we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch.
You guys should watch it. It's bad, but it's good bad because Cena is like plays this character that you don't ever really get to see him play, which is hilarious.
So,
but that I had a Survivor Series thing.
Oh, okay.
Really quick.
Yeah.
It's not a Cena Survivor Series thing because you kind of maybe said that with like LA Knight versus
right. That tag team.
But
idea.
But with Jey Uso, I had this thought I wrote in my notes. I just don't want to forget. With Jey Uso coming to Raw, because there's a brand split. I don't know if you guys know that. People from other shows don't show up on other
never
shows.
Do. They never do.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So means nothing unless, and the fact that Cody brought him back, you do like Bloodline versus Cody and Jay and whoever else they get on their Raw side of Survivor Series. I had that thought, and I was like, that's how you then get Cody back into the mix with fucking Roman, and that's how you get Jimmy and Jay then again to have their fucking thing.
I don't hate that. I also like the idea of a Cody Super Cena tag team. Like they will definitely solve racism if the two of them are a tag team. They will. Cody will finally solve racism once and for all if that happens. So that's just hope.
I thought he already did.
Well, it's gonna just really, finish it off. Like it's a rubber match for racism. I did not enjoy that match though. The LA Knight Miz match. It was pretty shit. As was the Austin Theory Mysterio match. Didn't need that on my show either. Didn't need honestly Raquel and Rhea on this show. I don't see it with Raquel. I guess maybe other people do, but
I've been screaming that for a while.
Yeah,
man.
it's not clicking. Oh man, though, I would let Rhea do things to me while wearing that China outfit. I'll say that. I'm firmly team Rhea. I think Rhea, carried that match 100%.
That was a cool throwback outfit too.
Yeah, it was.
As soon as she came out, and it was like, oh my god.
I saw someone online actually suggest that she should start bringing out the bazooka that China had. And I'm like,
nice.
I don't even hate that. Like, maybe post Judgment Day they could do something like that. It wouldn't. But she's already eclipsed China at this point. Like she's better than China ever was in the ring. She's probably a better character than China. Rhea's absolutely killing it. If I'm being real, I don't see any need to take the belt off her for quite a while because I don't see anybody that's even worthy of doing that.
Well, which is why she doesn't really wrestle that often.
Shayna Baszler would be the only person that would be a credible threat that I think that you could do it with currently. But Shayna's heel and so's Rhea.
Shayna would ever beat her though.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, it's you'd have to do a lot of work to get there, but she's the only one that I could see. Who else? Liv Morgan. But
I will say of the few title defenses that Rhea Ripley has had, some of them they're either amazing or they're fucking boring.
Yeah, no. This
not
one
a lot of in the middle at least for me.
This one was boring. This one was kind of a boring box standard match. But at the end of the day, she stands tall, as does the Judgment Day throughout this show. I didn't see this one coming at all. With the tag match with KO, Sami versus Damian Finn Balor in what was it? Just a Falls Count Anywhere, or what did they brand it as?
Detroit Steel City match.
So
which basically just means no DQ.
No DQ, Falls Count Anywhere, or something or other. Yeah.
But it's in Detroit, so
yeah. You know what? I enjoyed it though. There was a lot of like I could tell they were doing a lot of Terry Funk throw, like homages and that type of thing. I'm pretty convinced that KO was allowed to blade in this. I did not see where he got cut, and like the way they had the reveal and everything was pretty much kind of like how AEW will cut away for a little bit to let the guy do a thing and blade, and then like have the big reveal of the like. It felt very much like that rather than an organic KO just got busted open the hard way. And WWE is of course very famous for not letting their performers blade, which there's a whole debate you can have with that, because sometimes it's even safer to blade than to get busted open the hard way. But yeah, like, did you get that feeling that he might have done, like he might have bladed?
I didn't watch it, but I listened to 2 reviews of it, and both of them broke it down at like the same moment. They said that he went off screen, and they were like, "Oh, is he gonna get color now?" And they're like, then he came back and he didn't have color, and then the next time they cut back, all of a sudden he did. So they were like, I think that was the spot. But when they first cut back to him, he was already supposed to be bleeding, and he wasn't bleeding yet. When they cut back, he might have cut open more.
Maybe that. I mean, either way, that's kind of a big deal, right? Like, that must be a Triple H incentive that every once in a while, maybe someone, and KO would be a guy that would be allowed to do it. He's a big Triple H dude. Like, Triple H loves him. He might be one of those guys that can, like, all right, I know it's not every match, but, you know, can I, in this Detroit street fight match with these jerseys and this incredible spot that he of course did later on,
change into those jerseys mid-match.
Yeah, they changed into the jerseys mid-match. So. Yeah. They dipped.
They
were thrown over the barricade. They were thrown over the barricade, and they went down, and they weren't wearing them, and the jerseys were there, and then they put them on, and then they came up, and it was
good
like
thing they had those jerseys there.
Yeah. It's like they got thrown. They got thrown into the sin bin or thrown into the hockey bench, and then they went behind. And then they came up and they had them on. Yeah, it was great. It was a fun match. You'll enjoy. I encourage you to watch that one. It's definitely worth watching, especially even just for that crazy spot. I'm sure you saw, Jay, with that senton that KO did from like the entryway. The entryway, you know, like yeah. So I forget who he had on a table, if it was Damian or Finn, I can't remember at this point, but he had someone on a table, and then he went on top of, you know, like the alleyway, entranceway thing that you come out of in the arenas where like a hockey team would come out of, and he's on top of that, jumped off of that, and he overshot it by a good little bit.
Yeah.
Like
that could have been so bad.
He did not get the, you know how like you get the cushion of a body and a table before hitting the ground. He didn't get much of that. Like, this was KO doing a senton to the ground. Like it was more, I think he connected with his like lower back, kind of like the lumbar type of area where he actually really took the brunt of the impact. Like, he did connect the senton with the table, but it like grazed the table, like just broke the table enough. And but KO's like body weight, it was more like KO body weight to the floor from doing that. So I hope he's okay. Yeah. I really do hope he's okay for that.
Dude, the guy who is there's a couple people in the stands there right in front of him, or right behind him when he did it. This guy was just losing his mind. Absolutely losing his mind as he did it. Absolutely. I mean, because to see a guy like Kevin Owens do a swanton is just insane. And there's a picture going around on Reddit.
To see him doing it in a ring is insane.
Where you see him,
to see him doing it, to see him doing it in a ring is insane. To see him doing it like that is even more incredible. But yes, that picture you're talking about, where it's like from the bottom, what a shot! What a shot!
Now he has. If I am wrong, the blood was gone by this time. They had wiped it off by this time.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
So because I was thinking a lot about the blading thing, about whether he bladed or not, and I was wondering if maybe just really quickly going back to that, if maybe that was Triple H's answer to All In, because I mean, I swear over half the matches at All In had some color. So I almost wonder if it was like kind of like, oh, you know, we need to do this. Who can we do this with? And KO's the guy. But
I think
then
it. I think it was.
there,
I
and-
think
and
he
for
got
that
a
spot, it was
pass.
gone.
I think he got a pass to do it for those couple of minutes, knowing that they could kind of wipe it away. And I think he got the pass because of a Terry Funk tribute thing. I think, like, in my head, that's
a good point. Yeah,
that's how they probably that he would have pitched it, that he would have got that okayed, is something along those lines. But again,
he should have just done it and then said, "Cry me a river" into the camera
Yeah.
afterwards.
What, do you got
Real
a problem?
Blood, Cry Me a River.
Triple
Yeah.
H, you got a problem, Paul? Like, whatever. Okay, so that leaves us pretty much with just the main event of Payback, which I was kind of stoked for. I'll be honest, I've really enjoyed the sort of repackaging of Nakamura over the last few weeks. I think that they've done a really, really good job of making him feel like an actual credible threat. The vignettes that he's been doing, where he's, I think this works. They need to do more of this, where he's using his natural language and cutting a promo and just with the subtitles. Like, this is more threatening. This is like more enhancing to the character than a guy that doesn't know the language trying to speak English and saying, "I will break you," or just some, basic English stuff. Like, this felt real. Like, he was cutting a promo against this guy's, broken back, and, talking shit about how he's never going to be able to carry his kid again when he's done with him. And, shots of him doing like all sorts of crazy strong style and jujitsu and training in the gym. Like, it felt the most like the Nakamura from the NXT debut days with Sami Zayn, and it felt the most like that we have seen on the main roster, and I was all for it, but I was not all for this match, or all about this match. In fact, I fell asleep before the end of it and went to bed, knowing that it was a cool, like, they had a cool little intro thing for Shinsuke, cool video package and everything, but I just, about midway through the match, I'm like, no way in hell they're going to strap up Shinsuke in this one. This match is boring. And then I realized, as I was kind of writing our notes for today, that I think I find most Seth Rollins matches boring. And it's not that I think that he is a bad performer or a bad pro wrestler, but maybe it's a formulaic thing. Maybe it's a charisma thing. But I find every match that I watch, I'm bored watching Seth Rollins. Am I alone?
It's interesting you say that, because I was going to say that the exact same thing, except about Shinsuke Nakamura.
Well, lately, you're right.
The past few years.
Yeah, past few years.
For the past few years, and this match, I was never excited about when they mentioned it. Yes, the
last time Shin was good was in NXT.
But only the promos where he's not in the ring doing it, and because those are fucking horrible. But you're getting, it's the same thing I think that you're saying with Seth Rollins. You're getting exactly what they do, the exact same way they do it, almost every single time. And there's just, you can't expect anything else great. And I never thought that I don't think that they could put on a fucking amazing match right now. I just don't think that it could. I don't think they're going to ever do a match that's going to blow anyone away.
It's weird though, because
it's just not going to happen.
It's weird because there was a beat down after the pay-per-view went off the air, as if to insinuate that they're going to run this back at Backlash.
They probably will, but I'm just saying. I, as a fan, do not expect from either of them to not give you other than what the fuck they do, and in the sequence they do it in, and the timing they do it in. I don't think you're gonna get any sort of they can run it back fucking 3 times.
As the Brits would say,
I don't think any of these matches, any of us would say, holy shit, that was one of the best matches they've had in fucking years. Either of them.
It's gonna be bog standard, as the Brits would say. It's just a bog standard, run of the mill match, and that's why that's why the Trish Becky match would have been better as the main event, because it had so much more emotion and story really than this one did. Like I would have switched the two if you know, and that's saying something, because again, that Trish Becky story and feud had gotten stale as hell. So I like Shin. I kind of like Seth, but I feel like Seth needs to go away for a while. I feel like Shin's probably, like, if we're not going to strap him up as a transitional champion on a rematch with this. Champion. No, I mean, 2 weeks,
not
3
even transitional.
Like
he's not a good champion. He's not bringing any prestige to that fucking title.
I agree with you, but I feel like they might still be.
I think you like the idea of Shinsuke Nakamura.
I do.
More than you.
I just like the idea of that title bouncing around like unlike the SmackDown title that just.
I would like that.
Roman Reigns for years and years.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah.
I did like some of it. I do like both wrestlers, but I really like the beginning of the feud where Shinsuke whispered into Seth's ear, and then it was kind of the whole, what did he say the next week?
He's got a secret. He's got something.
Yeah, and then it turns out, I know about your back, and I thought that was really a cool, like a cool twist.
It was.
Because I wasn't I thought it was gonna be like, I have your daughter or something like that. Something
overly cheesy. Yeah.
But I thought that was a cool thing to use, and but I wasn't that into the match, and I think I kind of suffered from the same thing you did. I didn't fall asleep towards the end, but I was certainly getting there. It was a long pay-per-view with a lot of, with the exception of Beth and or Becky and Trish, with a lot of very meh matches. And so I just wasn't feeling it there either.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't we pause there for a little bit, take a short break. Okay. I need to urinate at this point in the program. Sorry to be so descriptive, but no, when we come back, we'll talk about All Out, of course, our thoughts on what happened with that, and then just kind of talk about the wrestling scene and more specifically the direction of AEW moving forward post CM Punk and post this last pay-per-view and even media scrum. You guys cool with that? Does that sound good? Awesome. Let me throw some tunage on. Those of you on Twitch, you don't have to go anywhere. By the way, twitch.tv/ONRS live. That ONRS, of course, stands for Ono Radio Show, where we, of course, do that fun jaunt every single week. But we use the same Twitch channel because why the hell not? But if you were just an Ono Wrestling fan, facebook.com/groups/Ono Wrestling. That's where you can find all of your wrestling content and when we will be going live on this Twitch. If you are listening to the podcast, you can also just stick around because it'll be on your same feed. And let's get out of here and give them a good old whoopsie, boys. Woo! Woo! Welcome back. Second segment of the Oh No Wrestling Podcast. 1 second, I'm getting all set up here. Turned down my headphones. I couldn't hear anything. So, we made it through halfway through this weekend on the first segment. So now we got to get through the second half. Second half, of course, starts really with the knowledge that CM Punk has been fired by AEW, going into Collision and now going into All Out, which doing back-to-back pay-per-views on back-to-back weekends, first off, ballsy decision in and of itself. Second thing, of course, about this is that the show is, or like a multitude of shows are going to be, of course, here in Chicago, where CM Punk is hailed as a god. And now, Tony, like we discussed earlier, has to open up Collision with, letting the peoples know that he is gone. He will not be there. And now we've got a whole pay-per-view to kind of, I'd say, get through that was also criticized much in the same way that All In was for having very little build. Yet, I got a weird thing with this, and maybe it's just coincidental, but it seems like when both companies or both big major companies, AEW or WWE, get pressed into something, when there's some major issue and they're forced to kind of pull something out of their ass, they end up delivering. And that's what I felt really, really happened on this pay-per-view last night. I toyed with the idea of, I don't know if this is worth purchasing, but I with the news of CM Punk, let's be real, it made me more inclined to purchase the pay-per-view than it had that not occurred. Does that sound crazy? Are you guys with me on that?
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to it very much on paper at all going into that week, and actually coming out of that episode of Collision, I thought they set it up pretty strongly. But I was looking for, by the time the pay-per-view came, just coming off the news of the weekend, I was looking forward to it a lot more than I thought I'd be. But man, it delivered. That was the best show of the week.
It incredibly over-delivered. I think your microphone might be muted there, Matt.
I thought it was actually a better card than All In.
It was a better card.
I was more excited going into this than going into All In.
For wrestling wise, I was more excited. I was more excited at the spectacle originally for All In, but the card for All Out, even though it was far from perfect, the card for All Out was more intriguing, and some of those matches I would argue should have probably been switched around and put on. A couple of them maybe put on All In, a couple.
Well, it was very Ring of Honor heavy too.
Yeah. But there were, I watched, I think all of us were there watching the pre-show for All Out and kind of chatting in our Discord. You can find all that information over on our Facebook, but to get in that Discord channel, so you can chat along with us during pay-per-views and, big events and stuff. But all of us, I think, certainly me, I know I don't want to speak for you guys, but I just felt that from the get, something felt different. Something felt like the vibe had changed in AEW, and that it honestly, it felt more akin to the old school AEW that I loved. It had more of this just like vibrant, oh my God, we're doing it type of like atmosphere and just vibe about it from the pre-show. I was picking up on that. Am I alone?
No, it was like going into work the day after the asshole boss was fired.
Yes.
And everyone's just kind of, and everyone's kind of got this glow about them now. Like,
it did feel like that,
what?
right?
We might be okay, guys.
It felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off this company, that this, like, guy that we have all known, like, and I think we've given Punk too much, like, benefit of the doubt over this last 18 months or however long it was. Like,
Absolutely.
I think we've made excuses for him time and time again. And this was finally like the letting go celebration of that. And you could feel it with the wrestling. You could feel it with the vibe of the wrestlers. And you could almost feel it with just the way the show was booked and flowed. It felt like old school, good old AEW again. And something I've been missing, because I do feel like apart from a couple select programs here or there, it has been in a slump. Like the Adam Cole MJF thing has really been the only like must see on their television that they've had in a while. We come out of this pay-per-view All Out with a ton of must sees. Going in, we didn't have. And I think that is extremely important, that it's a weird thing in wrestling, right? You've got to use the TV to sell the pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view should also do a decent job of building things that you want to see progress to see on TV. So it's like it's a yin yang. It's a balance of selling these types of things, and I think they did an amazing job given the circumstances and given what they were probably meant to, like. I mean, Punk was going to be all over that pay-per-view, right? Like Punk was going to wrestle Ricky Starks and have a big program with him. Who knows? Maybe it was going to be a Punk MJF interaction that set up Punk's next feud with MJF or something like that. These are what I think would probably going to happen, and they had to switch on the fly. And boy, oh boy, did they kill it with their switching on the fly.
Well, I'll also say again, in that scenario because I agree, there have been few and far between shows, Dynamite, Collision wise. They've had some good matches on it, but like overall show wise recently that have been good, right? And recently being last few months. But there's also, ever since fucking Punk came back again, it's all been about this backstage drama. We're all out. Now we're giving him a show. Now there's separate locker rooms, but there's not separate locker rooms because some people can go back and forth. So there's not a hard brand split, but it's like, people who don't want to work with Punk don't have to. So like there was this like tension, I think, with everything. And I think this just kind of alleviates
it released
that,
it, right? It absolutely
releases
did.
it. And yes, Collision and Dynamite are two different shows and they're shot a little differently. And I agree, like keep them in this thing, but it just seems like there's just this like breath where they're like, you know what? And now is the opportunity to step up, right? Like as the wrestlers, the way Tony Khan sat in that chair up there and took it from everyone. I think maybe all the wrestlers and everyone else on the production, they're like, all right, you know what? Now let's fucking step up and show them like what we are. And there's not any more of this stress. Like it's done.
I kind of like it. Like the thing that TK did that we played earlier on the first portion of the show, I think it's really, really important for a couple of different reasons. And the question I was going to ask you was the firing of Punk enough to course correct in the locker room and what have you. And I think it's like the first step, but I don't think the course correction really happens without TK really taking that on the chin and really taking the brunt of that, because I don't think you have, without doing that, I don't think you have as successful as a pay-per-view from a crowd standpoint in Chicago for All Out unless he does that. Now, the crowd in Chicago was a Chicago crowd. They very much got into the show, but they were a great crowd and they were a bad crowd. Like there's definitely like ways you can look at this like in a multitude of fashions. At some points they were fantastic. At some points they maybe over-engaged and overindulged in like them making themselves the show a bit. But at no point did I hear an overwhelming CM Punk chant that entire night. Maybe I was watching on my laptop without perfect audio, so I don't know if maybe I missed a CM Punk chant here or there. I'm sure there were small ones going on, and the Bucks, got very, very, I mean, they're playing heels anyway right now, but they got very, very booed for reasons that weren't just Bucks playing heels, right? Like, they got booed because the Chicago crowd feels like the EVPs in the Bucks had a big part into getting CM Punk fired. And that's why they were booing them for sure. But they didn't take over the show in that regard. And there was not like, this could have been a disaster, and they somehow averted that disaster of what it could be, and turned it into a fun celebration. And Tony Khan loves to use this term, love letter for wrestling. The love letter for wrestling should have been it All In. It actually just happened to happen on this particular night in Chicago.
Yeah.
This past week, we had so many things that reminded me again of why AEW was so great. And if we can go, bit by bit through this, but I'll give you my top match, and I really feel like it was a hard one to pick, but it wasn't. But the best match on the show, in my opinion, was Danielson Starks. And I think that's it's so interesting after you hear Danielson talk on the post-show scrum about how he considers that Ricky carried him through that match, that there was a lot of dark arts like black magic going on because that arm is still injured, and that Ricky had to do certain things. Like he even talked about, if you notice, I never threw a punch with that hand. Like it shows you how amazing, first off, Danielson is to be able to wrestle in the condition that he was in. Now, he also said that he was in no danger of snapping it, but it's just not, you got to not like use it, right?
He did say, he was like, whoever says it all the time, he's like, there's 206 bones in the fucking,
Nigel McGuinness is,
he was like, he says that, and he's like, 205 of mine are great. And he was like, and the 206th one, he was like, is almost unbreakable.
Yeah.
So,
but he also did play into the fact that in the post show, in the match itself, I mean Ricky Starks after this made man, right? Like, what a match. What like it doesn't matter who was working, like who really put that together, how those things, like that dark arts that that you would only know if you're a real wrestler, that you can see that were going on. It doesn't matter about that because it was such an entertaining match. They had me on the hook every step of the way. And realistically,
it says a lot about Ricky Starks.
It says a lot. Exactly. Yeah. It says it because we're speaking so highly of it. It says just as much for Ricky as it does for Brian. And I think that this is like, yeah, why wouldn't you at this point? Like, it's difficult. I still liked Ricky as a face. I think I'm very alone on that, and that people really did like prefer him. And I can understand why he might make a better heel. But right now, I think that like a Ricky going for the international title against a Moxley would be a tremendous feud if Ricky was a face. I do think that they switched that back a little too soon. I think they should have probably kept, because if right now, like Ricky should probably be a face. Like after that performance, like that's a.
I mean, he might get naturally cheered after that performance.
This is what I'm
next
saying.
Time he shows up, yeah.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah. Like
he might be the new real world champion.
I hope that just disappears.
I know. I hope he took that belt and went home.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I know. Oh my God.
Some Conrad will buy that in a couple years, and it'll be a thing. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed All Out. Like it had great stuff all over it. It was probably a better match with the Starks Danielson match than it would have been if it was the Punk match. Like it
absolutely.
Danielson is an injured Danielson is better than 100% CM Punk.
Yeah, and also, like I was saying earlier, Danielson just seems like a guy that I respect.
Yeah,
and, like the way he carries himself,
absolutely.
the way he speaks, the things he was like, and he seems very genuine and confident and self-aware in who he is. He's I'm showing up as this, and whereas I never got that vibe from Punk, and there were times when I was watching that media scrum when he was talking, and I almost felt like Tony Khan was Tony Khan's like sitting next to him, like, this hand's like, I'm in love with you right now. Like, this is so much better, right? Which it was, but I got goosebumps once or twice the way he was talking, because I was like, yeah, you're a fucking leader.
Yes.
That's what you are.
Absolutely.
You're very good at what you do. You're a leader, but you also like won't put up with shit, and you expect things out of people, but nothing you don't expect out of yourself. And like, and what you expect out of yourself is extremely reasonable, but you hold yourself to a very high standard. And like, just everything about his demeanor, the way he carried, like, all of it gave me so much hope. Even after such a good pay-per-view, and after everything that had happened, listening to him speak, I was like, yes, I'm behind you.
So a couple of things that are super interesting about this, and especially his comments in the post, the scrum or whatever, the post-show scrum. He was talking about stepping up to the plate when in a time of need, when the company needs you, like, it doesn't matter what's going on. You're going to drop everything. You're going to do what you can. It might not be what I want to do, but I'm going to step up to the plate, much like Moxley has. He was referencing that, but it was also like kind of the way that it was, the conversation went between TK and Danielson in all this, and the answers they were giving led me to believe that there needed to be a figurehead of Collision, and that with Punk gone, he was being almost instated as that figurehead of Collision. Now, that might not be as necessary to business as it was with like the Punk soft brand split and all that. Certain people can't go, which they've already said is done, right? Like, now we can have the Bucks are going to pop up on, right. Like, you can do that type of stuff now. Elite, like Dynamite guys can go over, and like
you can do that kind of stuff now.
Yeah, but isn't that, just even that. But one of the things I found most interesting is, I believe it's in the actual press release, it says that CM Punk was released of his contracts. Not contracts, implying that he had two contracts, probably one as a performer and one as a back stage, employee, an employee essentially of AEW, which a lot of the wrestlers don't have. So the EVPs have that. You got your Bucks and Kenny. Christopher Daniels has that with a talent relations like deal. Like, there are people that have that
input into the creative of
so he must have had, I would think, a deal that almost made him about on the same like power level as the Bucks and Kenny. I think that was probably what was going on, and why he had so much sway and say over that Collision show. With him gone now, you do need a guy that's going to not necessarily, maybe they do, give Danielson a second contract to do this type of work as a producer, as a whatever it is.
He was doing that before.
But he was doing it sort of before, and but it does feel like it's the right move, but you do still need a guy, because Tony can't do it all. The Bucks can't do it all. And you do want a different vibe to what Collision is. So having Danielson take over those reins, if that's literally what they're talking about doing, I couldn't be happier with, like, there is no better choice, especially when Tony says, like, I talked to my dad a couple weeks ago, and I said, if I ever got hit by a bus, the guy that you need to call to keep running this company creatively is Bryan Danielson, or whatever. Like, so when he's saying that, that's foreshadowing what we've just, like, now basically seen. And again, like you, Matthew, it really, it gives me hope for AEW, and it gives me, like, is this a new era for the future of AEW? Like, it's like, because it can lead us to speculate in so many different ways that I think that we weren't able to because of this weird Punk thing. That like, even if it wasn't just the soft brand split, there were certain little like touchy things that I feel like everybody danced around that are gone, that can like, it feels like you can add the creativity back into the AEW system, and that's and we can fantasy book a lot more creatively based around that. And here's the deal, so can Tony Khan, the guy that needs to be able to fantasy book the best out of all of this, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, and it's just sad to think that someone had that much influence, and so many things were stifled, and like so many people could have been held back and not been allowed to have performances and do things, right? Because of this. Maybe they didn't care either way, but didn't want to be like, I'm a full-on Punk, or I'm a full-on, and then they're like gonna maybe not really get used. They're just like openers for either show because they're the one who's willing to travel to each, like they're not getting pushes and things like that. It's just it was like it just seems like such a toxic thing. They didn't allow anyone else to succeed unless you were playing to one side or the other, like it just seems so bad. So I agree. It opens it up, and I think again, keep Collision. Danielson was doing a ton of creative before he got injured. They were saying that he had a lot to do with what was happening, and so it makes a lot of sense. And like they said in the press conference, with his family and stuff, like Saturday nights work best for him, and so I think we'll see a lot of that. And I think, keep the two shows different. The way that I love that Collision does those kind of like cold open,
the opens
between. I think
they're
fun.
Great. And, they're fun.
They're fun. There is a little different vibe. Keep that. But now there's this freedom that those shows can be those shows, but you can just do whatever and actually book whatever. And like really build. And I think that might have been an issue maybe to building some of these storylines, is you have 2 TV shows, right? And you're trying to build to these huge events. You should have been able to leverage big storylines on both of those TV shows.
I think
most
for me,
of the time. They did it a little
like,
bit, but like not. But they should have been able to do it all the time.
For me, what always was dumb is that faction should be able to be on like both shows, even if it's not every single guy. A guy can like the Elite can be on both shows. They didn't even do that. They didn't even touch that. And one of the reasons I bring that up is because we had in the like very opening match, I believe, of this pay-per-view, the pre-show, we even had Adam Page win the Battle Royal, right? Who was mysteriously left off the card up until this point. It seemed like that was a sign as well that like Adam Page, we believe in Adam Page. He's a former world champion, and he can be on.
And when they announced what the charity, imagine had he not given it to someone in Chicago.
Well, I
like if he,
I still think he should have
public school board.
He should have turned heel. He should have turned heel. He should have pocketed the money and wasted it away on booze.
Yeah,
like that's.
But I think that was the thing that like, oh yes, he won, and then it's like when Nigel McGuinness did that, it's like, oh, and he gave you $50,000 for your public school, so. You
have to like him now.
We said Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Like, which I still think they should have gone the opposite way, and he should have donated it to a Chicago mental health like charity, because I just think it would have been such a good little like under the table dig at Punk. Like, you need some fucking counseling, buddy.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Punk would have come down to the arena and been like, "Do we have a problem, Adam?"
Yeah,
dude. You know what I just realized? CM Punk is like he's like one of those child molesters who lures you into his ice cream van. Like he's like, oh, I'm gonna give the whole, come here, give me free ice cream, come and love me.
He did
like,
give us free ice cream,
right? He's like, and then he like mind fucks you.
Yep,
that's what he's been doing to everyone.
That's what he's been doing to everyone. But now you can get a guy like Hangman, who they have been struggling to find the TV time with all the other stories going on with the Elite on Dynamite. Now, what if you had all that stuff going on, but Hangman's in a feud over on Collision, right? Like it allows more freedom of movement for guys to work and operate. Doesn't mean he's not in the Elite. It doesn't mean that stuff isn't still ongoing. It just means that like he can get TV time doing some shit on a different show. Like That's what you should be doing with these,
Yeah.
with everyone.
He won't be sent home.
Maybe we'll get Colt Cabana back for a bit.
So one of the biggest things, obviously, from that came out of the pay-per-view, and it was so smart how they did it, really, with having the Better Than You Bebe tag match that we knew they were going to win, you know, against Dark Order, like to pretty much open the show. And
Dark Order was a viable threat.
You know what? I liked their heel turn. I thought they actually, like, the match was way better than it should have been. Like, and they actually looked like they hit some really great offense in that looked aggressive. It looked good. Like, those guys can still fucking wrestle. What are they, the Beaver Brothers or whatever? The
That's right. That's what they used to be, the Beaver Brothers.
Yeah. And
I will say this: the kangaroo kick
is awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. And you know you read the whole story about that too, like the tribute to a Jewish wrestler from back in the day, like basically just a modified drop kick, you know, type deal. Like, well, how awesome is that? Cool. That that's how clued in he is to be able to then pull that off, like against Aussie Open. Like, fuck you. Like, Max is operating. Remember, you know, Roman, they used to say with Roman, he's 3 steps ahead or whatever, like chess moves. He's so many moves. I think
he got so far ahead that everyone's just waiting now. We're all like,
I think MJF's is seriously like that far ahead. Like, I think he's far more ahead than any of us have a clue about. And it leads me to ask you the question, do you think it's a long con? The MJF face turn? Because I heard somebody bring this up on another podcast. I'll even say it. What Culture? Michael Sidgwick brought this excellent point up. MJF is doing an incredible job as a face right now, but he's not wrestling as a face per se. He's wrestling as somebody cosplaying as a face. It's not what he would be as a true face form. It's too comedic for it to be his true face form. And it makes a very good point that it could all be a long con, even as a defense mechanism for MJF, that he really is the devil and really has to go and will go back to that. Because I do see what they're talking about. If he were to truly work face, he would be working a lot more earnestly, aggressively, a lot like this is not a true babyface ring psychology and form. This is a heel pretending to be a face form of ring psychology. So
that's what it's always been.
So is it a long con then? Is MJF really the devil? Is this all?
Yeah,
is
he
this
just
all a
came
ruse?
out it all in as the devil, and he's gonna say it again. I made you believe I didn't exist again, and I was right in your face. So, and he showed up at All In as the devil.
I said that to Teresa the other day, and she's like, "What's that from?" I'm like, "I don't know, the Bible." She's like, "It's not from the Bible, Owen." Like, I'm like, "It is. It's from the Bible." And then we had to look it up, and it's from the usual. It's from the Usual Suspects. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing him he didn't exist. I thought it was in the Bible. I guess it's not in the Bible. I don't know. Not a theologian.
Apostle or anything.
Sorry, you're breaking up there, Jay. Sorry, Kim.
Yeah. You know, I feel like eventually he's. Oh, sorry. I feel like, oh shit.
Yeah, there it's.
Yeah, you're there.
You're sort of back. Yeah, it seems like you're back.
Okay. All right, here I am. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
All right. So I feel like that's where we gotta eventually go with MJF. Like, there's gotta eventually be a heel turn back, right? I mean, every great heel goes babyface and then goes back heel eventually. So I think you're really on the spot when he does make that turn. It's going to be like he's going to say like, I told you guys exactly who I was.
Right.
You guys knew who I was. You guys knew I was your scumbag. I'm still a scumbag. And it's going to be, it's gonna be one of those like we're all gonna have egg on our face because we knew he was gonna do it anyways.
Yep.
It's gonna be great. It's when he does do it. I just hope they keep face stuff.
Here's what I'm interested in though now, because obviously we had them win. We had that whole sequence after the match. Then with Joe, right? Joe comes out and he does the move where he shoulder blocks MJF, just like in the old video back from NXT when he was an extra and he was playing a security guard. And now we've got a feud between, obviously, like, this is MJF's next world title feud, right? Samoa Joe. I wouldn't have ever guessed it. That would, I could look at the roster for days and probably pull 4 or 5 people out before I would have guessed Joe. But I love it. I think it's actually a really smart move, especially because of the promo battles they're going to have in this. And
it does the Adam Cole MJF buddy storyline bleed into that? Like,
absolutely, it does.
Does Joe attack Cole to get to MJF or something?
Well, remember, you've got to, of course, remember the Adam Cole Samoa Joe history from NXT as well. It all,
yeah, for sure.
It literally all ties into one nice little piece. It's like we're almost extending that storyline through the context lens now of the World Championship in AEW with MJF.
Thanks, Triple H.
But isn't that what they're doing? And I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's I'm here for it. I think it's a really smart move, especially was Punk going to be the Joe character in all this? Was Punk?
I think they were gonna have a MJF Punk match.
I think so.
An actual title.
And merge the two real championship thing or something
Yeah, because we haven't been doing that.
Right.
In wrestling.
We haven't done that.
Titles and
to death. Yeah, exactly.
Is that championship gone then, guys? We're done with it, right?
We're done with it.
No world. Okay. Yeah, I that's what I hope, because it was just stupid.
No, it needs
stupid,
to be.
and you would be so stupid to bring it back. You're paying homage to him in some weird way. Yeah, it's that thing would be so tarnished.
Christian should find it in the trash and carry it around. And
now he's the real world champion.
I earned this.
Finders keepers.
Wow,
Christian rules. I do.
Oh, fantastic!
I love everything he's doing. What did you guys? Because obviously, match of the night was tied. It was almost like a 3-way tie on All Out for me.
I was gonna say those are my
because you gotta even talk about the main event. Let's go there first before anything. Honestly, the main event with Moxley and Cassidy. Pretty sure Mox didn't blade throughout that entire match and let Orange do all the bleedings. It start to finish, just story wise, every beat of it was great. The work was great. Cassidy, much like Starks did, looks like he lost upwards as well. This feels just,
yeah, he was already. But now he's done a couple of matches, and especially within the span of a week, where they were more hardcore with bigger spots and blood. And I think that this was to do that match with Mox. That's a signing from Mox. Mox was
yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you, and you're gonna take it, and you're gonna give it back to me. And he's and I can go as hard as you want me to go, man. You tell me when. And I think Orange Cassidy just was no, this is it. I'm showing once again. Remember when everyone thought he was just this goofy caricature meme type, persona, and then when at the beginning of AEW, when he first started showing hints of it, and everyone's like, oh shit, I think he can actually. And
on this very show, we had almost a whole 20-minute conversation about how we were unsure if Orange Cassidy could ever get to the position of even winning a singles title.
Right.
And now we're here,
And he made that title mean a lot. with
Yes.
with his defenses and the way that he did it, and he is like probably the most defending in any of wrestling in the past like year or so, like match after match after, not even just open but banger matches, like almost every single time. And I think this was the level up again. That's like not like he hit that peak of like, yes, oh shit, he can actually really go. And then it was like, I'm gonna go more consistently. Now I'm like going and I'm doing the injured thing and like I'm just going and going. Now I'm doing some kind of like hardcore shit. So I'm like leveling up. Like I'm showing you that I can run this spectrum like completely, and I can do the jokey stuff within a fucking at the beginning of like a hardcore match that I'm
he's shown that because of his demeanor at this point, when he does do the real fire up, it means more. Like that's the beauty of his character, is that when he actually does go batshit fucking crazy and pissed off, it's like, holy shit. Like it's like that guy that's too calm for his own good, and you just know like that guy, like he's too nice. Like if you see him like turn the other way, you know, like it's not gonna be a good time. And you know, it feels like that a little bit with Orange. And I question now what they do with both these guys, right? Like, first off, Mox was, in my opinion, well, I was gonna say that, but Cassidy needs to go away for a while, heal up. But was Mox the right guy to end this reign for you? Because he was for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I couldn't really.
He's done everything else.
Yeah. It seems like, without giving him the world title, hey Mox, like we want you to be important right now because CM Punk's gone away for a little bit too, and we need you, Mox. So you know, like
also Moxley still like wrestles and shows up all over, so like he'll take that thing internationally and do like show, you know.
That's like why it's a good move on him. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Now, who do you start positioning him with, right? Like because he's still heel, right? Like we need some faces now to challenge Mox for that title. I don't imagine it's gonna be, you know, a super quick run, but I don't expect it to be as long as Cassidy's. So where do we?
It needs to be definitely a dominating run. Goes like he needs to just absolutely destroy the shit out of it. But I you know. Everybody came out of that match a winner. Everyone.
Absolutely.
There was no loser in that match, including the fans. And that title, most of all, just really got elevated. So I'd really like to see him become like, you know, if Cassidy was kind of the workhorse of that title, I want Moxley to be the tank. You know, let's just see this freaking tank just destroy people who are trying to get to it for a while. And you know, so to answer your question, who I'd pair him up with, I'd pair him up with everybody and anyone who's willing to wrestle for that. Do the open challenges right now. Let's just build it up.
He's going to do exactly what Cassidy did, and you don't have to have any central feud for him to do it in. You can have him just defend the title every single week, opening match. Fucking exactly, you know.
It is kind of stupid when you do have a title called the TNT title that's not the one that's the open challenge every week. Just saying, because that's like the TV title. Like that's the one that should be that one. Just saying. But you know, I feel like the prestige of the international now is way higher than the TNT title, right? It feels like they could, if they wanted to. I'm not saying they should, but they could if they needed like Collision to have its own belt. It could have just been that belt.
Yep.
Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre belt.
Like, well,
maybe like the second.
It's held by what Jared?
Wrestling.
We need to bring back Dark Elevation for that belt. That's the Dark Elevation Championship, I think. Like, and as long as I get to see Jeff Jarrett, like Jeff Jarrett never loses. By the way, he's always that champion. Like
that's right.
Forever and evermore. But no, like I'd see like maybe with that one, it would be a great way to. I know Kingston's got his stuff with Claudio, and the story could be that like his, you know, Kingston could eventually be the one to dethrone Claudio for the Ring of Honor World Championship. but I think I'd prefer to actually see him defeat Jon Moxley for the international championship than I would that. That's just my 2 cents on it. I like it both ways, but
yeah,
I think they gotta get over this Kingston Claudio thing soon, and I think that we've already seen Moxley Kingston.
Yeah, I think there's an easy way to reunite.
It's just
pull it back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The easy way is what Kingston does with everything. I fucking hate you.
What if? Okay, so
I mean, that's how you do any Eddie Kingston feud.
So okay, there's a match on All Out. I loved it. It seemed like Chicago really liked it even more than me. We're talking about the meat match, and that's one Miro and Will Hobbs. The crowd was all into this, weren't they? They were meat chanting. What was your favorite meat chant?
Meat forever.
Yeah, meat forever was good. Yeah.
Meat forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really helped make the match, to be honest.
They did.
I sometimes get annoyed at the crowd when they try to get themselves over, but I think they were there for this match, and they helped raise interest into it, and they made both these guys just look like absolute freaking stars.
They did, and honestly, the work was good too. The work was
good too.
The work was really good, and I think Miro in particular showed his potential of really what he can deliver at times too, because the personality and the character was there along with the meat, right? Like he was playing and interacting with that crowd. Like he was absolutely like he was hearing him, and they were definitely, they gave him a few more meat spots than they would have given him if they hadn't been chanting the meats. Like the same match was gonna happen, but they gave him a little more meat because they asked for extra meat. You know,
I think Miro showed up though to fucking go.
He did.
The get-go. Like,
it seemed like it.
I just, if you go back and watch, I remember watching like the first little bit of it, and he was doing some of those strikes at the beginning. Those kicks and punch looked fucking amazing.
Yeah, they did.
It's right off the bat, he looked in like the best form I've seen him in a long time.
Probably the best AEW form since his like initial first couple week run. I want to say, like
yeah, I really like that match he was in, the carnival one. They had like around the ring.
That's right.
The Arcade Anarchy, was that the Arcade Anarchy?
Like
yeah, that was
him in orange.
Yeah, it was Best Friends.
Yeah,
something like that. And I forget, man. It seems like a long time ago. I forgot Miro was even in that one. But then we got the appearance of course. We got I thought. Again, this is one that I don't think Will Hobbs looks bad in defeat. I think they did a really good job of still making him look phenomenal, and you can run that match back. I think they will over time. They'll probably run that back.
Is he still a part of QTV?
So that's what they need to do. That's what they need to do very soon, is use this whole thing as like, well, why you guys are dead weight to me, and like use it to turn Hobbs.
I say just don't even bring
Hobbs
back
needs
QTV.
to be a face.
Like, let us all forget about it.
Hobbs needs to be a face. but the heel face dynamics of this one were weird. Like I think you kind of want to cheer both Hobbs and Miro, but they're both kind of heels. So I'd say that actually Hobbs worked the heel to Miro's face in this match. I think. Yeah? I don't know. I could go. I mean, it really is so it really is so back and forth with that one. And then like the ending angle also further confuses things as to where this is going.
That was weird.
Like, yeah, we've obviously got CJ Perry, formerly Lana in WWE, Miro, Rusev's wife, appearing for the first time on AEW television or pay-per-view. And Miro has been going through a whole like meltdown lately where he's like renounced his God and renounced his wife, and he's having a meltdown.
Very literally renounced his life.
Yeah. And then she shows up, she helps him, bashes Powerhouse Hobbs with a chair even. And she kind of helps him win a little bit, but then she's like, "Oh, but I love you," and like he's like he won't go anywhere near her. Like he's
says you're not real, like she's a ghost or something.
So yeah, that was the thing. I didn't catch that. So one of you, Matthew, you might have posted that in our Discord where you said, I think well, maybe it was you, Jay.
Yeah.
But someone said, I think he said that you're, she's not real type thing. Is this a play on that video that went viral?
Oh yeah.
With the woman on the plane where
that motherfucker's not real.
Yeah, that motherfucker's not real. And she's like, yeah, that whole deal. I think it could be a slight play on that he's losing his mind. That he's like delusional and that like he doesn't know what's real or what's not anymore, but that also makes him so much scarier in the ring because he doesn't know what's real and what's fake anymore. Like he's unhinged, it's an unhinged Miro that doesn't know reality. He's lost touch with reality, and then she's gonna eventually probably be the one to pull him back into like common sense and reality, and then we can do something with him in a further program.
We can do like a macho Miss Elizabeth thing.
Something like that. I mean, that's definitely fine. That's definitely have makeout scenes like with Lana and
like old school like Skinamax.
Yeah, let's have makeout. Well, no,
like jazz.
Remember they did her and Bobby Lashley. They're just gonna find another big.
That was so awful.
Yeah, so they're just gonna find another big black guy, and now CJ's gonna be with Powerhouse Hobbs, and they're gonna do some making out.
Yeah.
They're gonna do some necking. Yeah.
Or Miro.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
So we'll have the BCC, the BBB, and the BBC.
Yeah. All the acronyms. Renee Paquette must get terrified when she Googles things. I did want to comment though on probably the third best match of the night. I think so. It goes for me. I think it goes. Favorite match is the Danielson Starks. Then it goes to the main event Orange Mox. And then it goes, I think, to Takeshita Omega. I think that was the third. And that's crazy because that match was pretty fucking awesome. But I don't know. I think it was just the build wasn't done strong enough to like really make this work in my eyes. But it lacked something in heart and fire where the other two matches didn't. Like this, they almost know each other too well that kind of how like those impacts are going to go. Now it looked phenomenal, and it's Takeshita's best match, of course, in AEW. I think Takeshita, like this was obviously a showcase by Kenny. Like this guy's like the shit, and the way he moves, like from like when he runs the ropes, he's like a missile. And like it takes him like 1.5 steps to go from one side of the ring to the other. It's insane, like the stride and speed the guy has, like he's just a big dude. He makes Kenny look normal, and Kenny next to a lot of people looks pretty big. And he makes him look, they look normal. Like I think Takeshita, I've said it before, I think he's deceivingly big. The match itself was just full of great work. And the story, I'm not saying the story wasn't there because it was. It was just missing, again, like maybe the heart or something in there. Thoughts?
I say, well, first off, I would say for me it's flipped. I liked the main event, and then Danielson Starks would be 2. This would be 3. But I do agree it was a really fucking good match, but there was something. I can't say what it is. There was like a dash of something that was missing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a great match, but there wasn't that. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
It's hard to put into words, right? Yeah, it's definitely something like that. And here's the thing with this one, I will be excited to see the rematch. I'm not usually super excited to see rematches. I will be, I think, more into seeing, they did this last time. I think they can get a better match out of it. Like, right? Like with a better story, with enhancement, this and with a great build, this can really tell an amazing in-ring story And so I think they will run this back, and it will be twice the match that this one is. And this was almost just like, this was the appetizer for what's to come in the main course later down the road with the two of them. That's what I think's going. That's what I think's going on with that.
Yeah. And I mean, how long have we been doing the Callis Omega thing? It's been a bit now.
Been a while. Yeah. It's been a while.
So I mean, I think that was part of it.
Prediction wise, I will say I never even thought no one in the Elite should have been booked to win, except, I mean, I guess Hangman, but the other ones, it's like, you're not on All Out gonna be booked to win after Brawl Out last year. Probably.
Yeah,
taking that into account in my predictions.
So moving forward, with Darby losing, where does this leave the TNT title picture, and where do you see them going with that? Who's gonna challenge Chris? Well, I mean, who knows? Christian's title? Like,
well, who doesn't have a dad?
Yeah.
We need to find some connection.
Who is fatherless?
Dad stuff. Well, Jeff Jarrett's dad died recently. No, he's still alive.
There
isn't he?
You go.
Yeah, we could do that. Like, we need to find dad stuff.
Yeah, I don't know where you go next. I've been enjoying it though. I'm not ready for the title drop yet. Christian's such a great freaking heel. In fact, I'm thinking maybe this September when we go to the AEW show here in Denver, we should all wear the sleeveless turtlenecks. Yes. Matthew.
That's a good call. Yeah, you guys need to do that. Do that.
So I will say I did Google sleeveless turtlenecks.
Do they make them, or do you got to just cut them?
Oh, they 100% make them, but like all of a sudden it's like, because I Googled that, and then the results that come up, like every targeted ad I got for like 2 weeks was all like fishnet, like nipples showing out, like
hell
shirts and like stuff like that.
I'd go broke.
Nice,
that's like my style. I wear all that. I wear tiny shorts.
I wanted to get so just know that's gonna happen with your targeted ads if you Google.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. I'm into that. If Orange does take a break, then after this, does he come back for the world title?
No,
maybe when he shows up.
I mean, if MJF was straight up heel right now,
recruit him to Blackpool Combat Club because he made him bleed and like ran him through the ringer, and then Cassidy from inside infiltrates and breaks up Blackpool Combat Club.
He comes out in it's the same look, but it's black denim, and it's blood orange.
Yeah.
And he leaves like in the weeks prior to him coming back, he just leaves oranges outside of people's locker rooms and stuff, and it's like, oh no.
I think
oranges.
All kidding aside, I think there is a day when we see a actual heel MJF world champion face a Orange Cassidy.
Yeah,
I think that's and I think that's probably a bit sooner rather than later. Like, I think that's maybe a year out. Like, I think that
could be.
I think you could argue the Orange would be a great guy to take it off of MJF.
Yeah.
I think you could really make that argument. And that's not something I would have said maybe even 6 months ago. As much as I've always loved Orange, just never really, thought of him that way. But I think that it's, I think you can make that argument.
This has been one of the best runs in AEW history.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of title runs. I mean, in fact, it was arguably, until he lost it, one of the most interesting runs in professional wrestling. So he could do all that and more with a world title run, I bet.
Someone in the chat said that the Punk thing, it's so coincidental with Chicago, makes me think it's like a storyline, like thinking it's a work. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think this one's a work.
No, it's done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. When
and all the people, and also all the people online, like, not in our group, but like just people online who are saying, "Fucking come back home, come to WWE." You know what? He's good. They would not do that. And two, like, really, like, you still don't believe, like, this is an abusive relationship that you're in. Like that this person can keep doing this shit and be like, no, it's still like it's okay. I do love you. I love you. Do you
I'm
want some
not.
ice cream?
I'm not saying it's okay, but I do not write it off completely that WWE wouldn't make a play to get him in for just a couple dates. I can 100% see him do it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I can see
them trust him not to go off, and they just got to.
They pulled Kid Rock in
Endeavor.
For. I mean,
like you just, yeah.
What happens? Okay, first off, when do we see then Jack Perry return, and what's the reaction for him going to be like?
Mad heat. Or no,
I think he might get.
Heat,
I think he's gonna get cheered. I think he's gonna get cheered. He's
gonna have to go back to Jungle Boy.
I think he needs to just
come
play
back and be fatherless
instead of being like.
We're running that back again.
So you know how he's like cocky but morose. Like he's morose cocky, kind of like, oh, I'm better than you. Like that's what he's been doing with his latest gimmick. He needs to now come out chewing gum with the biggest smile on his fucking face, playing heel still.
He needs that to be his catchphrase too. Cry me a river.
Cry me a river, and say it.
I like that.
Man, I hate it, but I love it. One of the things I saw online. You should totally have him have a glass break at the beginning of his entrance now.
Yeah.
That's
good.
And then someone suggested that to use Cry Me a River as his theme song, but it doesn't work as a wrestling theme song. It doesn't. So that's not good. I still say that you need just a remix of the Beverly Hills 90210 theme. Maybe with a glass break in front. Maybe with a glass break in front of it now, and then din it.
That would have been so good.
And now he comes out and he's just chewing gum and he's smiling big with the microphone when he comes back. Have him be that type of heel though.
Charisma and comes back with that, he can literally come back and just be that cocky heel, and people will cheer it, but he can still be a heel.
No, I dig it. I dig it. I think that's...
This is how you become bad boy Jack Perry.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Will Punk try and sue AEW, you think? Or, I mean, it doesn't sound like he's going to have much of a case.
Crouch the old man.
He probably will.
And you know what, though? If he does over this incident, then that video is going to go into discovery.
Yeah,
everyone's going to see it.
That's how he would see it.
Because there was a video in Gorilla that captured all this. Yeah. And if it goes into discovery, then it's going to be made public. So I could see him not suing for that reason, to keep it from going public.
It might do more damage for him than good. Yeah, if he were to do that, it might do more damage for him for his public reputation. That he'd rather leave it a little ambiguous, that let people guess what happened backstage, rather than having actual proof that he's a bully. You know, like, and
I will say it had to, and now we know the outcome and such, but it had to have been that serious.
Yeah.
That, because when Tony Khan did the presser after All In, the first thing he said was there was an event that happened tonight. There was something that happened. He goes, it was in Gorilla. I was not there at the time. And immediately I thought, that's fucking bullshit.
You were there.
You were in Gorilla at the start of your fucking pay-per-view, the largest. You are not anywhere else. That's bullshit. You're lying to us. And I just think it was that serious that, no, I can't talk about this.
And I think that it shows how serious and how definitive it was at how quick he made the decision. Think about how long the investigation took for the brawl out stuff. It took months, right? Of talking to all these people. This was done within a matter of days. This was a cut and dry. We got this on camera. You assaulted someone, basically, that there was no denying it. And that's where he probably doesn't have any grounds to sue, and it's probably in his best interest. It's interesting how you haven't heard a peep out of him, have you? You know, it's interesting how he's disappeared, because he knows he fucked up, and it's in his best interest to disappear for a good long while before you rear your ugly head again, before you say anything. And like you said earlier, he'll appear on some podcast like Cornette or something. He'll pop up somewhere and you'll hear his side of the story once again. I still think that they should have had Colt Cabana on that show just to make a point, but that's also me if I was Tony Khan being a vindictive dickhead. And that's how I would book, is I would have Colt Cabana have won that, whole goddamn battle royal just out of spite. Spite booking. I like it. But anyway, is Jay White a main eventer in the waiting? And where and when does that happen? Because I wasn't sold on him at first. Pretty sold on him these days, though. I can see it. I can see it in front of my eyes. This guy turning into an AEW main eventer. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't think quite yet, but he's definitely on the trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
He's.
I just hope they sell the cardboard cutouts. Sorry.
Yeah,
they are.
I think he's. If he's not on deck, he's like next in the lineup.
Yeah. What is his name? Yeah, they're selling card blades already. They're selling mini. Yeah, they're selling mini card blades like that you can buy that are like a foot tall or something. Like they're mini card blades that you can buy, so you can get your mini.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, your mini Jay Whites. But yeah, like right now, with again, like this is another one. I guess they're just gonna continue like feuding with the Elite or FTR. Like what's the deal there? Like are they doing just the Bullet Club Gold stuff, faction stuff, or are we gonna really have, I need a solid singles Jay White feud with either a Kenny or a Hangman. Like those two stick out obviously for obvious reasons, but I think I need that to get him to like, oh, he should be challenging for a title of some description, right? Like it feels like we need a stepping stone to get him to that level, but he's very close to being able to get to that level. If we had a major title, like basically all the titles apart from MJF's is held by a heel, I don't see him going after MJF. That doesn't fit for me. But if it was either of the other titles that were held by a face, I think TNT or International, he'd be perfect right now to be challenging for that. Like just on his trajectory, his level right now. I feel like you got to maybe get him something there before he gets to like the next one.
Yeah.
Could you see them going after the trios titles? I mean, I know we're talking about a singles title for Jay White, but,
right?
I wonder if that's kind of where that faction's going next.
Or if they're gonna give Jay White like a Claudio, and like they're not gonna fully level him up quite yet. Go after like the Ring of Honor title.
Yeah, I could see something like that. I mean,
which I think is the wrong move.
It is the wrong move, but I could see them doing that. Yeah. I don't know. A trios thing with those guys doesn't feel right either for me, because the Bullet Club Gold is 4 dudes. And so if we're going trios, that means we're using one of the Gun Club and not the other. And I guess you go
That's true.
but you go Freebird rule with thing all day long, but it just doesn't fit. Like, so you'd have to almost add a person to the group to make them the trios to be able to get that working. And then they're it's the Bullet Club Gold and the Guns, and then they do that, whatever. But they just made those belts too for the Acclaimed, the scissoring belts, and like the trios.
Those are good belts.
Yeah, I like them. They're
actually
they're good looking belts. Cool. I guess maybe this is a last run for Billy Gunn and that whole deal, but they can't hold on to those for long, right? That doesn't feel like it's long for the world. So I don't hate the idea that it could be like a that type of deal, but I also wonder if maybe they're gonna do some stuff that's like LFI related with the trios situation, because there was a big vignette on All Out for Roosh was basically, he was holding shop, motherfuckers. He's like, y'all bitches better fucking step up. LFI, I'm back, bitch. Like, get your shit together. Like, you, Preston Vance, I'm gonna beat you up if you don't do better. And then he was And then I'm thinking like, oh, well, there could even be bigger things at play for that, especially if Andrade comes back in and realigns with them, right? Like, I know Andrade's back, but sort of. He had like one match, right? And then he went away again or something.
Right.
I don't know where the hell he's been again. So I don't know. Is he with LFI? Because he was buddies with them for a while, and like Roosh and all that, and then he wasn't. And then, so like, I don't know. Do you put them back together? Have a whole LFI thing with that? I mean, you got enough banditos in the world that you can throw a whole goddamn faction together to put a BCC versus LFI thing going on if you wanted it. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And that kind of works too. I don't know. But otherwise, I feel like, yeah, they're probably just going to go after the trios titles, the LFI, and probably not win and probably be there and stuff. I don't know. I don't know. House of Black LFI, though, even without the trios titles, would actually be pretty cool. Like, you could do some stuff with that. I think they have done that, but if you're going to run with this LFI thing, you got to give them something. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got those. I guess you get the Ring of Honor ones too. Like in case. The
6-man.
Yeah, you could have them win those. I guess no one gives a shit about those, but at least they'd have something.
Yeah.
Who's got them now? It's the Mogul Embassy dudes, right?
Yeah.
Brian Cage. Yeah,
with Brian Cage and
Brian Cage and the two other dudes. Those guys.
The two
Agony Gates of Agony.
Tama Tonga and
Gates,
Tama.
The other Tongas, something Tongas and whatever. Yeah, Gates of Agony. I know that, but that's about it. It's Serpentico White
Gates
dude.
of Agony. Yes, thank you.
It's
authors of.
Okay, final thoughts for the episode before we get out of here. Is Serpentico a white dude?
I
think he's a white dude.
Well, his last name's Cruz, isn't it?
I don't know. Well, that could go either way, man.
So is Tom's.
Yeah, exactly. That could go either way. You Z and me, you
but
I
think it's spelled CRUZ, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel also Fuego del Sol is from Louisiana,
and like there's some where like his arms look a little whiter, but his name is J. Cruz. You're right. He's
another J. We need more J's, and God damn it, they're everywhere.
Yeah. We totally do.
He's Puerto Rican. He's Puerto Rican.
He's Puerto Rican. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Whiter than Mexican, then. I mean, Puerto Ricans. I don't know.
American.
Yeah, exactly. American. It's just another. It's a state, but it's not a state. I don't know how that works. How has John Cena not got a hair transplant yet? He's got all the money, right?
He said he's riding it out. Remember the last run he had? He was like, "Yeah, make fun of it." He's like, "I'm lit." He mentioned it on air. He was like, in the middle of the ring, he's like, "Yeah, I'm balding," and he's like, and I'm fucking rocking it.
I cringe.
Embrace it, brother.
I cringe for him, man. I don't know. I'm just like, dude, do you not see it? Do you not want it? Really? You can't. You get all that money, and you can't get a, little couple plugs or something. Like they do a good.
Growing old gracefully.
They do, but he's not though. He's not. He's just just get rid of it or something. I don't know.
There's got to be something like, all right, man, you've done so many steroids. Like, we can't do this hair transplant or something. It's just not gonna stick.
It could be. Okay. Here we go. Here's a fun fact. If CM Punk returns to the WWE at the Royal Rumble on Saturday, January 27th, 2024.
That's the day I will kill myself.
It would mark exactly 10 years since he quit WWE on January 26th, 2014, backstage on Monday Night Raw. Literally 10 years to the day. Royal Rumble.
No. The next couple of months are going to be awful with the speculation.
Don't go on the internet until after Royal Rumble.
Man, yeah.
And just telling you that's what you got to.
Yeah, this is what see. Look, this is confirmation about it. You go looking for something, you're going to find it. If that's if you really want to find an answer that aligns with what you think. I don't think it. Again, it is just not good for business. Yes, you might make a little bit in the short term, but it is not good for business long term. at this day and age to have CM Punk come and do anything.
Never say never, though. It's wrestling.
So crazy because just last
bad
March,
wrestler, you're a shitty human. Go
just
away.
last March, Matthew, you and I were. I mean, we were talking about when Owen was on his European excursion. You and I were talking about how CM Punk was best for business. How they really should bring him back. And it's crazy how quickly he fucked everything up for himself. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. And he's proven it multiple times.
Right up there with Velveteen Dream is like one of the most craziest falls from the top. Like, you just...
There's going to be documentaries made about this whole ordeal. Like, I'm sure of it. Like, and it's, there's so many... It's such a nuanced tale, but... Realistically, maybe it isn't that nuanced. Maybe it is that just fucking simple. He's a twat.
Dude, yeah, I bet people are allowed to talk about it. We're going to have another Me Too movement, but it's going to be wrestlers being like, yeah, I had an issue with CM Punk when I was working Collision, and I just didn't want to say anything because I was scared, because my predator was right there in front of me, and I saw what was happening to other people, and so I just decided to go along with it, but he demeaned me, and I bet there's probably more of that.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? That's allegedly, of course. I will ask you this. We didn't even talk about it. We haven't talked about it. Of course, the tragic news of Bray Wyatt's passing happened since the last time we did a show. I thought everybody has handled that very well. I thought WWE handled it pretty tremendously, honestly. And Duncan even asked me the question when it happened. Of course, love to Duncan. Wish he'd come back on the show sometime. But he brought up, he's like, is this the first active wrestler in WWE that's passed since like Eddie or I guess it would be Benoit? I think it is. Like, I mean, plenty of past that are, that are not active. But I can't, since, I think Benoit, that can't picture in my mind an active WWE superstar that has passed away that's on the active roster. Of course, we had Brody Lee in AEW, and we had Jay Briscoe in AEW that were active, but those were the only two active on that side as well. So.
Did Test die after Guerrero or before? I think
he wasn't an active roster member. He
wasn't at the time. He was off. Yeah.
Yeah. So no,
I can't think of any others.
So I don't think there is. And so that's a wild thing just to think about. It's absolutely tragic. Like, it sounds like it probably could have been prevented in some ways if he been wearing this like heart defibrillator thing, and it sounds like that. It's
long COVID.
I mean, maybe a lot of long COVID situation going on there, and wow, 36, 30, something like that. Yeah, 36. Like, that's a year younger. Younger than me. Like, it's 4 kids. And just so weirdly so similar to how John Huber died. I think that hits home as well. This one got me. And I don't think I could be, I'd be telling a lie if I thought that some of the stuff that Bray was doing in his last run with WWE I haven't made fun of and thought it was absolute dog shit. I'd be lying if I didn't say that. But I also think that he did a lot of amazing stuff in his career, especially early stuff with NXT and his early run with WWE and the early run with the Wyatt family. Do we go ahead and just, like, if I'm a WWE, if I'm Triple H, if I'm Vince, I mean, I not only put Bray in the Hall of Fame, just put the Wyatt family in the Hall of Fame. Like, that's what I would do. To sort of just honor them all. Like, it's a way of honoring John Huber as well, without, with that complication of the AEW Brody Lee, Luke Harper, WWE thing like that. That whole, just honor the whole Wyatt family and call it a day. I think that's
no. I like that.
It means that Rowan gets in. It means that Strowman gets in. But I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It feels like they should be in as a unit anyway. Like as much as it was, we can all say that the best two in the Wyatt family were Bray and Luke, but they all had their place. Like it all worked better as a unit together, and it all. Have you guys gone and listened back to some of those promos too? Like it's weird. You can almost maybe tell he knew in that one of those very last ones that he cut that he wasn't long for this world somehow. Like the way one when he came back and he thanked the audience for saving his life, and it feels so surreal listening to that one now. Like just how much like when you go back and listen to those like CM Punk promos, like, oh, wow, you find like, man, that's a hidden gem that ages strangely. It almost does with some of these, like in a more tragic way with Bray. Like it's a fascinating character, and I feel like I was kind of proud of the wrestling audiences and even internet wrestling community's response to this. I didn't say a negative thing about any of it, right? And there were a lot of, and before his death, there were a lot of people that criticized, hey, let's just be honest, kind of like iffy storyline that was beginning with Uncle Howdy and the things that they were sort of beginning to portray, but no one said a word about that. I didn't hear a word about that. All they did was spread the word of how of his good works for wrestling, and also just how like quality of a human being he was. So
yeah,
be more like Bray and less like Phil.
Yeah, that's the moral.
That's maybe what it should be. We'll save this, and I saved this for last, and it's one last little fact, which ties into everything that we've talked about tonight. But did you know that Roman Reigns' entire title career in length eclipses that of CM Punk's AEW career? So the entire time that Roman has had his belts is longer than CM Punk's entire AEW career. When you put it in perspective like that, it makes you realize how quick, how long and how quick this sort of went in this just period of time that has existed. And to me, I found that just completely fascinating. Boys,
fascinating.
I'm
as
good.
the squared circle turns.
Yeah, I've got one thing before we get out of here, just real quick.
Please do.
The Chad Gable Gunther, the match that's going to be tomorrow. Gunther doesn't win. All of this was for nothing. You think he's going to win?
I'd love them to actually have the balls and
to take him right up to the fucking finish line and pull it.
Yep.
Because Chad Gable already won via countout.
And also, let's think about this too. We've had all these fucking records being broken, right, with title reigns. But what have they done for people's characters? Not a lot.
Made them
boring. So what would be more interesting? Having Gunther lose
predictable.
Having Gunther it's very predictable if he keeps it, but if Gunther actually loses it right before he beats the Honky Tonk Man's record, right?
It's like tomorrow night, if he wins it and retains it through the night, I think he beats his record.
Wait, tomorrow night, like Tuesday night or
tonight, I guess.
Oh,
maybe
so
tonight, yeah.
Well, it's already happened. Yeah, it's literally already happened.
There,
so I guess we can look it up. Let's finish let's see if he did it or not. I would love.
I thought it was Sunday.
It's not.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that earlier. I'm like, oh shit, I haven't been watching Raw. I'm like, oh, I'll catch up on it later. I forgot that was happening. But that brings up a good point, because if I think it would be a great character device to how angry Gunther is going to be that he got that close but didn't get it type thing. Like, I think that you could actually do some great character work based upon that, which is more than what most of these title reigns have done for a lot of people, excluding Orange Cassidy.
Yep.
I want to see Orange Cassidy and Gunther right now. Why don't we? They probably have wrestled at some point.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Gunther won. Yeah.
Gunther won, so he's gonna do it. Then he's gonna.
Yeah, in 15 minutes, 50 seconds to retain.
Well, it also.
15 minutes.
It doesn't mean though. Like, I still think that you can do a really good storyline with Chad Gable still being like the guy to beat Gunther for that title. Like, I think that's.
I know, but I just don't get, like, I get it though. They started it with the count out thing. I just thought that also kind of like, it's a little tarnish on
it is
run is like towards the very end, like to set up this storyline. They had him lose via count out, so he lost, but he didn't lose the championship belt.
It's either that or you bring up Dragunov. I mean, like, that's what you got to probably do. You got to bring up Dragunov to take it from Gunther. Like, and that's it. Like, that's what Triple H is probably thinking. I know. Yeah. I mean,
that'd be good.
Yeah. Well, it already has been good. You know, it's already been such a phenomenal match. So, like, why would
it's not on the main roster yet?
No, exactly. And you can redo it and do it, you know, good, but not quite as good as the original, like they do with a ton of those matches. But it is what it is. Boys, thank you very much for a wonderful night. I'm going to leave you with a bit of homework to think about for the next time we do a show. Because the next time I do a show, I want to ask the question of you guys. Can Cody Rhodes ever be a heel in the WWE? We don't have time to talk about it tonight, but it's something for us to think about for the next time we get together. Can Cody Rhodes ever be a heel in the WWE? I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Ono Wrestling. 407-906-6466 if you ever want to leave us a voicemail. That could be a question, a comment, or whatever you want to do. Thank you for joining us this evening. Twitch.tv/ONRS Live. Should you ever want to check us out on one of these evenings on our live broadcast feed, just search for Ono Wrestling anywhere you find your podcast. If you want to download this thing, guys, it's been a good one. What do we get out of here with? A little bit of a good old
Auburn time.
God damn it, Dax, who let you in?